It's a tale as old as time. A man scorned, he seeks vengeance, he amasses new allies, devises new plans, and battles his way to the rematch he so desperately desires. The role of hero today is played by the one and only Canadian who leads a revitalized Soniqs against the might of DarkZero. Or is he the villain? For DarkZero today, gentlemen, a chance to banish the ghosts of the past, to prove that they are more than just one man, more than just one legacy. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me here for the last match of NAL Stage 2 is Laxing and Fox. I knew I was going to do it. I was so in the opening. I'm happy to be here with you guys at the end of all things for this game. This is the big grudge match that people have been looking forward to all stage.
Yeah, and I really like your intro because we were talking about yesterday how DarkZero was going to go watch a Game of Thrones episode. It feels like very medieval Game of Thrones-esque, you know? So, I mean, I like that. I like that.
We are in the Dark Ages going into this game. I mean, it's a little bit of a grudge match, as we heard from Troy. He wants to dominate this team. He wants to show them that they were wrong, that he can bring SQ to the first place seed. But I mean, all in all, it's going to be a good game because when we saw these two match up, it was a 7-2. It was a blowout from Soniqs, but that was DZ not finding their footing, not finding their identity, where they absolutely have shown their identity throughout this stage, throughout these playoffs so far. So this should be the true testament for both of these teams to see whose team is better than the other.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Bolo said it best yesterday. Every roster change can be a good roster change. It's not necessarily getting rid of Canadian meant that he wasn't a good player, and we're seeing that here today. I mean, he got off of DZ. Now he's brought SQ to potentially top 2. DarkZero also potentially top 2. And you're right, that first matchup wasn't a DarkZero that we saw. So we've been anticipating this matchup with a new and improved DarkZero and a new and improved Soniqs. And Soniqs has also gone through their ups and downs, and they found a little bit of a consistency in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, DarkZero, I think, has been one of the sort of transcendent stories here of this stage. Like we said, started out on a bit of a bum note, came back just a roaring good form all the way through to playoffs and to the Montreal Major.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, their newest challenge that was tasked to them, we didn't see them struggle besides that first game. The newest challenge was the best of 3. How were they going to match up? How were they going to play on it? And we saw a lot of great from them. Border was a very fast, energetic, entertaining DarkZero to watch that was dominating on the entries. And then on the last map of Clubhouse, it was very slow, passive, methodical DarkZero that had to climb back into the game, get those rounds back when they were down against M80. And so it was a really great performance from everybody on DarkZero's part. And it was really nice to see the back and the forth, different styles from them. It was really rejuvenating. You can see everybody on the leaderboard was doing pretty well, doing their own regard, performing pretty well. There's really no big red flags if you're a DarkZero fan. The only one minor detail could potentially be the fact that Nafe was towards the bottom, Bolo had a donut game, but obviously as the IGL being Nafe, you go through a lot of trials every single match, every single map, and after that first map, even in the second map, you have to pinpoint every single thing that went wrong. You have to figure out what you want to do better, and there's so much of a thought process that goes into leading your team, especially leading the currently ranked 1 attacking team in NA. So obviously going through all of that, there's a reason why IGLs are more at the bottom, and it's nice to see a matchup between 2 teams that have commanding voices, commanding IGLs, and it's nice to see the meta of Siege slowly transitioning back into that.
No, it definitely is. And I mean, I feel like DarkZero as a whole, they've really sort of transformed themselves into this engine. We talk so much about their fast attack and how good they have looked in general. Do you think that they are a team that is more than capable of taking on Soniqs here tonight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Far better than what we saw in the first time they matched up. Easily.
Yeah, you have to take that matchup with a grain of salt because they've gotten a lot better. They're the #1 defending team. I think they're currently #2 on attacking.
Something like that.
Soniqs is #1 attacking, maybe. And I think they're #3 on defending. So, I mean, I think it's going to be the best game of the stage so far.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talk about their opponent Soniqs. I mean, as much as we talk about the transformation here of DarkZero, obviously the transformations of Soniqs has been just as epic, just as impressive. Canadian, he comes, he molds them into this new machine. They have a great culture. We picked that up. They look more impressive, I think, than they have in a very long time, and they deservedly qualified for the major.
Yeah, you know, we talk about trials with DZ, but even for Soniqs, they started out really strong and then, you know, lost their first game to SSG and then fumbled their last game against C9 East Coast and then had a really close game with Wildcard that really could have went the distance there, but they ended up closing it out and then finding their way against SSG. If we look back at their performance, they had a dominant showing. And, you know, we said that that was going to be a statement game. Canadian said that that was going to be a statement game, and that's exactly what it was. It was a statement game. They 7-4'd them, 2-0'd them. It was a beautiful display of performance from Soniqs, firing across the cylinder from all teams. I mean, from all the players. But one player that really sticks out is Troy here. Obviously, as the IGL, I have a stat here showing you throughout the quarterfinals into the semifinals, these are all the IGL stats. And something that I want to highlight, because I don't think IGLs get talked about too much in the light because they aren't super high on that leaderboard. The thing that Troy brings and a lot of these IGLs bring is the selflessness. They allow their players to succeed and thrive, because what Troy does, especially on these shield ops, is he discombobulates the setups. He moves the pieces around that allows his players to capitalize off these power positions or get these kills. And then he takes the initiative to go for said plants. Even if he doesn't get the bomb planted, he does set his team up for success to get those power positions, to bring back the round. And he doesn't care if he's top of the leaderboard. What he wants is the results and the games won, and that is exactly why you see them in the first and second seed, possibly going into Montreal. But another player that I do want to highlight that we haven't been able to talk about too much is Surf. Surf is currently the second highest rated player in the NAL. We kind of haven't been able to talk about him too much, but he has been such a pivotal pickup for this roster. And coming into this roster, it's his debut back into Pro League when you have to go all the way back to the old Beast Codes, where we just simply were not able to see him perform because of the team that he's been on. But because he's been on this roster, I think he's truly molded and became such a talented player and continuing to improve with each and every single game. And Troy said it himself, even for a vocal standpoint, he's been one of the most vocal players that has came onto this roster and helps bring back. I mean, he's hitting montage clips with this Cali. I mean, that's not a lot that you see in Siege. So Surf definitely deserves his flowers and everything that he is bringing to the table for Soniqs.
Absolutely. And at the start of the stage, you know, we mentioned that I had a little bit of a conversation with Super about Surf, about their expectations of what he is to bring. And they didn't really expect too much from him. They know that he was good at his position, that he's going to do his job, and that he still has a lot to learn, because you're right, this is the first time where he's joining a team of this caliber with equal players of skill. And so now he's doing great in this position. Throughout the stage, he's kind of just been picking up the ends that he needs to do. But so far in playoffs, he has come alive and been a really big key proponent of Soniqs' success.
I think one of the things that has always struck me the most about Surf is this, that whenever we get an interview with Canadian, he mentions Surf as being a standout player. And if you're getting a vouch from Canadian, you know that you're doing a good job. But speaking of hearing from players, let's hear from Rexon and Nath as they spill the beans about today's matchup.
Hello, I'm Rexon. I play entry for Soniqs, and we just smoked SSG 2-0 to qualify for the Montreal Major.
Hi guys, it's Nate for DarkZero, and we've just qualified to the Montreal Major. Border went great. Border went to plan. Chalet attacks, kind of where it fell apart a bit. I mean, I think we recognized what the problem was. We just didn't recognize it quick enough in the game. There was some devastating rounds as well. So at the end, it just became TDM, and we're getting grimmed, yinged, capitaled, everything. We just need to be a bit more adaptive on the defense, and that's kind of down to me too. So I take responsibility for that.
Yesterday we played against Wildcard. It was pretty obvious that we had a slow start to the first map. Super was telling us, this shit's not given, it's earned, and we need to try every single round. Same with Troy. He was saying that if we want this, we have to show we won it. Like, we don't deserve it. We're not entitled to it. No, we have to earn it. So we shut that shit down. We won, and then came into today, just like, you know, put everything on the line. Like, these guys have beaten us for the past 2 years. I hate losing to those guys, and, you know, like, they always chat shit. So we did the same thing back, and we beat them at their own game, and now we're up 2-0, and we're in the finals. They got to play tomorrow. They can't execute, and they rush a lot of the time. So they're gonna try and get aggressive and get a play, and then if you just, you know, you shut it down, you wait, they don't know what to do. So that was our game plan.
Rob Famazal, obviously, like, I think he's the best player for us today, but like, he's kind of like a cool-headed guy. So, you know, even when these rounds are getting hectic, he's still cool, calm, collected, and I think that's very underrated in like these like high-pressure situations. So you're welcome, Rob.
First time playing DarkZero, again, mopped the floor with them on Skyscraper. Granted, they did have a new player, and it is the first match, so I guess you could say it might be nerves, but I don't think it'll change. I still think we're at a 2-0, 2-1 at worst, but we're not going to lose to DarkZero.
They were our first game of the stage, you know, it was a long time ago. A lot has changed since then. We're quite chuffed with like the way it's ended. But we've got a lot of confidence behind us now with whatever it is, like 9 wins in a row. I mean, yeah, job's not done, job's far from done. Even when we beat these guys tomorrow, like, we still got the major to go to and SI after that, so, you know.
The issue with DZ would be that they are slow. They picked up Kobe to be faster, but it doesn't seem like they are, at least when they played us. He's supposed to be like an X factor, as every rookie is. Every rookie typically you pick up is known for their mechanics, but not for how smart they are.
Shouldn't be too hard. A lot of the strategic side, I think Troy took from us and took with them. So, you know, I know a lot of the defense-wise, attack-wise, what they're going to be doing. It's just about, like a matter of fact, on the day if we can shoot back.
We're still aiming for first. It's what we want. Our point standing is not great for invite, so the job is not finished, as cliche as it sounds. So we want to go to this major and, you know, lock our invite spot.
Regarding tomorrow, no expectations. We're just going to go out and play our game. what happens, what happens. Either way, we're locked into Major, locked into SI. We still want the first place, but what will be will be. Yeah, as I said, all of these games just small hurdles to the end goal.
You know, two things. First of all, Nafe sounds so relieved in that post-game interview. He genuinely sounds like a man who has had a weight lifted off his shoulders. But second, both of them feeling very overconfident going into a match where they're quite equally matched up.
I mean, you obviously want to see that from both teams. I mean, they both, in that moment, punched their tickets to go to Montreal.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, you're going to see the relief on both of their shoulders. I mean, I think everything that they said made a lot of sense. I mean, of course, SQ matches up very well against DZ. And so far, if you look at the receipts, SQ did dominate them. Now,
True.
It is a completely different DarkZero. They have a lot more to their arsenal of what they can do fast and slow. And I think it's going to come down to the maps specifically, because Skyscraper, when they first played, did not work out in DarkZero's favor. But we're going to see Cafe first from Soniqs, which is a great pick because that is a map that mimics Skyscraper, so understandably so. Soniqs is trying to take DZ to a place that they know that they'll be weak on. DarkZero, switching it up, going to Chalet, which is a map that they lost yesterday to M80. And they were saying that their attacks were kind of shaky on it.
I actually do really like the maps for both these teams. I think they fare out pretty evenly, to say the least. I mean, Cafe, I don't think Soniqs have looked crazy dominant. Their first game against LG, I talked about it back then, that LG possibly could have walked away with that game. It was just small errors that hindered their performance. And then they recently just played against C9BC, losing it, and then losing their spot for the first and second seed. But I do expect them to have that bounce back. But I do expect a lot of counter-stratting for both these teams going into these maps to really try to bring that punch and bring that little oomph into these rounds to be able to push them through that hurdle and get into that next map.
I do kind of wonder, is maybe Cafe a little bit of a miscalculation? Because we know that DarkZero can go awfully fast on the attack when they want to.
I mean, Cafe is a map that you can't really get too aggressive on. Yeah, you can do rushes, obviously, going through the windows, but it's very linear. It's difficult to even just get into the map. So that is a first step that mimics Skyscraper, and that was the issue that DZ ran into, is they couldn't even get in the map in Skyscraper. Soniqs was shutting them out. So I'm imagining that Soniqs, with that mindset, has the exact same ideology when it comes to Cafe. Don't let DarkZero in the map, shut them out, and when it comes to their swap sides and they have to play their own attacks, they have the better proponents to deal with DarkZero's over-aggression.
I mean, I expect Soniqs to be fairly aggressive, especially with how we saw them play against SSG the other day. You know, they were four-manning up a single person or two people, just really communicating and coordinating together throughout the map. And Cafe is exactly a map that does demonstrate that sort of play. If you can play with a teammate, you can get those engagements going and get those kills going in your favor. You should be the team walking away from that round and then carry it into the next. But I expect both teams to really just bring their best performance here to try to just better the other. But again, it really is going to start on that defensive half for the attackers to really try to make their foot into the building.
Well, it's time here for the finals of the NAL. I'm happy to turn you over to our casters. One sugar, one spice. I'll let you sort out which and which. It's Intero and Fluke.
Thank you so very much. And it's time for the final matchup of the day, with ultimately bragging rights being on the line. One of the most memorable matches that we had in this stage of the North America League came back on Skyscraper. It was DZ versus SQ, and of course, it was a grudge match. There was some bad blood spilt on social media between Nafe and Troy Canadian. As Canadian departed DarkZero, he found a safe harbor in Soniqs. And that was the only match that DZ actually lost, Emmy. And it was quite the thrilling end. Who gets their way in the rematch? We'll start on Cafe Dostoevsky with the bands rolling in Sonic, starting on defense.
I mean, yesterday, last night during Bad Blood, we had a fantastic showing. Will this be a Hell in a Cell as it was to the level of Punk versus... Do you watch wrestling?
I do.
Yeah. Will the Rock...
I didn't watch it, but I heard about Punk versus Drew.
Great Hell in a Cell match. Will this be a continuation? Will this be a brawl? At this point, I think there's one thing to especially take away from Nafe's interview is they are officially one of those few confirmed teams. Them, the BDS and C9BC are the three that are locked in now for SI. That is not changing. That is not shaking. Because of that, there's a slightly different weight to this game where Soniqs want every single point possible. What do they get from this game? 5 extra officially, and a nice cool $30,000, I believe it works out to be. But you know, at this point, it's more than anything a grudge match. I hate that Grim picture. Can I just say that? That skin.
Which one was it? Sorry, I wasn't looking at all that.
It's the Street Fighter one with the giant eyebrows.
Oh, Ryu?
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it just upsets me. Scares me.
Hadouken! Let's talk about the real stakes of this matchup, though. It's not SI points, Emmy.
No.
It's not about finishing first overall, Emmy. It's about Arcanic Truth potentially leaving the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit
Wait, what?
for a month.
Wow.
This was posted 3 hours ago by Arcanic Truth, who posts maybe a bit too much on the subreddit and said, okay, it's time to put my money where my mouth is. If DZ lose to the Soniqs today, I will leave the sub for a month. So that's if DZ loses. Those are the real stakes of this matchup. I know all 10 of these players in the lobby and their coaches and various support staff take that threat very seriously. So we'll see what happens.
You know, I mean, that's a lot of responsibility for one person to take from there's about 5 or 10 super posters on the Reddit. Some of them I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with, but Arcanic Truth is a chaotic one. 30 seconds gone here. Now, obviously, there was an early showing between these two teams before. As you said, it was the one that got away from DarkZero, so sort of getting that revenge will be a very delicious dish on the end of this. Have they picked up an idea, or is Canadian still in the heads of their ex-team, their ex-roster? As they said, both these two teams have got themselves towards the second phase. They're not playing for the stress of Montreal. As soon as this day's over, it's back in towards prep, back into getting themselves set up to take on the icy tundra of French Canada. Some quick control is taken over the top 2 floors.
The sunny beaches of Montreal, you mean, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
The big thing that we need to focus on today is Bolo. Bolo himself. Because yesterday, Bolo had a really rough first game. He had 0 kills in map number 1. In this match, can we see DZ strike first? Naif actually picks up 2. That is huge for him because Naif also had a very bad day yesterday statistically. If Naif can survive and continue to exhibit influence on this matchup, then that will be troubling for Soniqs, who've already gone down 2 with Ambi and Rex, and usually 2 of their stronger players removed from action. The desk highlighted Surf, and he'll be somebody we keep our eye on today as well.
I saw earlier on this day when I covered the Japan teams playing their way towards the major an absolutely ludicrous echo clutch that happened where they just stayed underneath the players' feet so they couldn't shoot them out and ran out the time, and it was pretty much to clutch the whole game and series. I'm kind of hoping I get the same level of crazy here, but probably won't. It seems a little bit more formulated as they go for the drop round. They're close towards what is a default plant spot, but so is the Echo that steps in for the fight. Canadian wants the double dip inside the cold freezer as there's at least one more that's about to swing on, and the Deimos is able to get that cleaned and squared away, leaving just Surf alone. Now, holding against Pamba, Kobe, and Bolo. It's not the easiest strike force to try and take down, and with a post plant made even harder. The track is on, they know exactly where he is. There's no free space to move into. One's rotated up towards the back of White. One is just holding them down onside Coffee, and they don't even get past that. Bolo, the other person you wanted to question, is the end of a round. Is this the herald of a better time for DarkZero?
Well, I mean, we'll see. That's just the very first round here for these two teams. Cafe as a map is around the middle of the pack in North America. We'll get these numbers out of the way before we get too deep into the actual matchup. 63 rounds played on this map, just a little bit ahead of Chalet. Technically, it's in third behind Consulate and Clubhouse. Clubhouse taking up most of the air of the 3 maps. But back to Cafe. Of the 63 rounds played on this map, 34 of those rounds have been won by the attackers. That puts this as an attacker-sided map. 54% of all rounds won by the attackers, 46% by the defenders. So it's still close enough where this could very easily be a 3-3 first half, and we wouldn't bat an eye. Not sure how this will shake out looking at the operator bans, though. I mean, you've got the most banned operators removed with the exception of Mira. Azami, the most banned defender by a country mile. and she is removed from play. Monty, also removed from play. The most banned attacker by a country mile. Dokkaebi, next most banned attacker, also gone. Mira's down towards the bottom, but still gets a decent amount of bans, and obviously she has impact on every single one of the bomb sites, but most notably the top floor, because the top floor is not just its own bomb site. It's also the part that has to be held quite aggressively when you're defending that middle floor, which is floor number 2. And as you can see, the extension right now from Soniqs is on the top floor, just as we anticipate. No Mira makes it a little bit harder for you to hold.
They'll start, as they often do on Cafe with most of the attacks. You get this vertical control. Quick eyes on towards Piano. You can see the player going a bit looser on towards top red, and you sort of shepherd down, back here. Onto the back line of the bar, see if you can just force them out of the Piano side, around Cigar, step across, and then drop down with that vertical control. Canadian on a pulse. I mean, one of the most classic pairings, I think, of man and operator. They're able to try and feed just any of this potential short on the back end, make sure that nobody gets onto the windows on the eastern side, and freezes them out on this approach. Still, as I said, steadying, force them out of freezer, force them out of the middle. They don't want to be the one that gets caught out. The longer you're here, the bigger the risk is that they are going to try and strike back on you. DarkZero needs to try and get their boots inside the building and inside the ground, and that's, again, just this forced play. They need to get this bit of motion in. There's step 1. Out of bathroom, out of the corner of Pixel, just swing into the smoke. You're going to die out there. Just cooked themselves based on not being able to cancel that animation. There's got to be a need for revenge and a trade on as they keep pushing and pushing. That 5-second window almost ran out, but Kobe does find Surf, does find at least something to stop the bleeding of losing Pamba and Bolo and all the utility they would have offered. There's another trade out. Kobe's doing his best to hold on to this body balance, but at this point, you look at what is left in their pockets gadget-wise. They don't have the RAM to open up any of these vast angles they need to get this plant down successfully. The air jabs have already been deployed somewhere. One set of Bs left, and almost Rexon knocked out from the long-range shot, but you kind of favor the C4s led by the Pulse in this utility engagement.
I like the way that DarkZero took top floor map control, but they just weren't able to secure Cocktail. Now it's NJR to do some serious damage. DZ holding the lead. Look at this, 7 HP for Ambi, 4 HP for Rexon, but even with so little left, SQ are able to dig deep enough, and as long as you've got a single point, you can still frag. And that's exactly what happens. Soniqs answer back with a successful defense.
There is the other statistic that likes to play into this, which is the side of map bans and the way it gets calculated. And technically, this is a third preference map for Soniqs. They've had it banned against them. They've banned it themselves a little bit more, but it's still something they play. It's still something they put a performance in. It's something that's always often there as their third map decider. In the meantime, technically, although it hasn't had play from the side of DarkZero, Cafe is top preference. It's been banned against them 8 times over recent memory here. They've only taken it out once since about August. It's been a little bit of an unknown factor, I think it's fair to sort of call it here from the side of DarkZero on the stats that we get given. And maybe that's that little bit extra knowledge that might be applied here from Canadian. Something where they go, look, other people fear this map quite a lot. I think we can bring them here. It's not a horrible map for us. It's a secret map from them, but remember, I'm the man with all the secrets.
5 seconds to go.
Now the upstairs bomb site will show up. When there is no Mira on the board, by the way, most teams will go with usually a bulletproof camera on a wall that they can watch, though it's not as easy as just taking one operator out and subbing the other one in. Usually it's a little bit more complex than that, and there are some changes that are made. The one thing I do like about this lineup is that while there's only a single bulletproof camera, and it's in the hands of, well, in the pockets actually of Ambi, is that you can punch the you can punch the wall and then put a bulletproof camera into that divot that you create on, of course, to the reinforcement, and then you throw a Surya gate over top of it. Rexon has used all the Surya gates, and the bulletproof camera has not been put down, at least not from what we see, so I doubt that's what's going to happen, but it could be a little bit tricky for teams to deal with, especially on this bomb site, because you've got that cocktail wall that is so far removed, it can't be shot or dealt with from the hatch if you put it correctly. That means that you have to drop red hatch and take it on 1v1. 1 minute eclipsed, and right now, DarkZero on the roof as Soniqs just sit and wait for them. Where will the first advance be, and where will the first DZ player drop from?
The Blitz wants to make some motion behind the blinds of the Candle as they chase a player that is unfortunately one step ahead, so they just get themselves a bit unsprung, sit and wait, and well, there's a rotate, out for some safety, doesn't get picked up, they take a while, but they're in, and the shield is just a bit away, sprays through the soft, but somehow a life survived and a rotate made, and with all this encircled pressure, it wasn't full utility throw-in, they had a bit of a cost that we heard, but otherwise, for them to get away from there, now a problem that's going to pop up later because they're a player with a C4. So, go for the plant, go for the cover, go for what was an attempted explosion. We hear two pop off, neither of them connect. A post-plant situation as Pamba finds Surf onto Cocktail. Kobe gets Rexon as well. And as they want to go toe-to-toe with a shield, the air jab will be not the end this time. How many lives do they have on this stair set against the Blitz? Nate is playing coyly because Kobe has the cover. Flawless for DZ.
What an entertaining match and interesting match we have seen so far from these teams. I was wondering where they would come from, and I mean, Red ended up being the scene of the crime for most of these players, and it's been a real brawl. With this being Soniqs' map, they must not like the position that they find themselves in so early on. They've got work to be done, but I mean, both of these teams have been towards the top of the standings for good reason. When you look at a team like DarkZero, their matchup yesterday against M80 really goes to tell you all you need to know about the mental of this team. Even with Nafe going well over half of the game without a kill, with Bolo going an entire match without a kill, these guys stayed in it mentally. They did not break. They barely even bent. And they ended up beating M80, which is why they are in this match. And both of these teams you see on your screen will be in Montreal next month for the Major. In fact, the Major, I think it starts in almost exactly a month from now.
Really?
So, I believe November 7th or 8th is the first day. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. Just going off of the schedule from when the live event starts, and then counting back like 2 weeks. So, I'm just speculating. I think it's a month. I think it's a month.
Brat Summer, give out false information.
What is? I don't like Charlie XCX.
Whoa! She watches! I don't know if she watches.
I very much
cool,
doubt
though.
Charlie XCX watches Rainbow Six Siege.
What else has she got on?
I don't know, being a gigantic pop star.
Yeah. Right. That's one thing. DarkZero.
That's definitely something.
It's a hobby, sure. They get the control. Again, you will very concurrently see attacks start up here. It's just their methodology, and this is the stuff where I talked about it will be things that are known, right? I don't have to point out the obvious when an IGL that's been with a team so long changes team, regardless of who it is always going to bring A, some of that extra heat with them, but B, so much extra knowledge that you can play off. You have to shake things up, and you've got a limited time. Sure, how long does it take to workshop a map? How long does it take to change what is an awkward one to approach an attack? NJR's caught with the C4 out of the white stairs window. And as the bees and the burn don't get anybody, they're free to drift away. Bolo takes half his health on the clipped wing of a C4, but they get at least the terrain cautiously. However, I mean, they're really just keeping themselves at arm's length continually with this pulse.
I mean, if there's anybody that's going to be successful on this operator, it's going to be Troy. He knows it probably better than everybody in North America. I don't know a single player that I would trust on that role any more than him. 1 minute left. He'll be able to quarterback this defense using those calls. DZ already down by 1 is not the start that they wanted, not by any stretch of the imagination. Now they've got the top floor control. By the way, I haven't noticed. I think NJR is the only player that we have seen on a player cam so far. We are just constantly looking at NJR, and I mean, he's not a factor at this point. Pamazoo is, though. Down goes Rexon. Numbers will equalize, and the cut and thrust of the execute is about to be upon us.
I like the live NJR reaction we were getting there. I think it's good to know just what he's up to when all of this stuff is going on. And with 20 seconds left, I'm kind of curious what all of DarkZero is up to at this point. Now they've got to see if they can try and get themselves down towards the plant, just tucked inside of a corner with the vertical that you have. It's awkward. You're going to go for the machine room. They drop down on the train hatch itself. They're going for the plant, but very quickly locked out there. It's in a great double take from Bolo, but with the timer and with the fight of Ami inside, woohoo! Just dodge, dipped, and dived the right side there for that final kill. But the fact that it was just a brawl, a scrap inside the site with 15 seconds left of we've just got to send it, definitely not how they wanted that round to play out.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, this has been a very entertaining and genuinely quite enjoyable matchup here between these teams. And I'm assuming this is, I was going to say, this is a timeout from Soniqs. They must not be particularly happy with what they're witnessing. And honestly, I cannot blame them. This is, after all, their map. And for them to go down when this really isn't a straight defender-sided map, that is bad. We expect a 3-3.
I'm waiting for live NJR reaction.
No, they've fixed it, I'm sure.
How do I know how to feel if I'm not seeing? What do you think about when, obviously Surf's monitor, maybe it's just the angle, but it looks like it's down and you're leaning over it. Have you ever tried to play like that?
I have not, no.
Do you think you could?
Probably not.
You play?
It looks, I just play like a normie, but I'm always very impressed with the way that players approach it. I mean, who is it? I think it's Joystick sits a millimeter from his monitor, which just strikes me as being...
He's close. It was
very bad.
that was very, very close.
Was it? Okay.
There's a player for one of the Korean teams right now where they're so hunched over. It's like a drawing pad they're playing on at this point. Like, they are looking straight down on it, and can't remember who it is. I'm pretty sure it was one of the Korean days that we covered recently. Anyway, we're back in. The timeout's covered. Soniqs, things aren't going the Sonic-y way. They'll see if they can try and change the wavelength and get a slightly more preferable song coming out. As DarkZero, they've secured themselves what is probably better than average for a lot of attacking teams on towards Cafe here. They get this consistency. They're still happy to play against it. I mean, again, what they've hidden and what they've changed is something that's working out in some manners for them. But, you know, Kobe having a huge opener to this 7-1. If there's a difference factor, he's it right now.
Kobe has been only improving as time has gone on. And, I mean, you're getting accustomed to a team. You're also getting accustomed to Tier 1 Siege.
NJR reaction.
Yeah, there's NJR again. It's just always him.
Doesn't seem to be reacting much towards the hatch being opened, the drones coming across. He's pretty much the same about this chase. Nafe going for an echo drone. Add the yakety sax back. He wasn't entertained by that either. NJR.
Something is wrong, but it is fixed now. We have no player camps. Goodbye.
Oh,
Goodbye,
I like
NJR.
memeing. Now they're going to see if they can still try and hunt down some utility, but obviously look at the choice that they want to try and get control of here. There's the echo drones, which are very important. How many rounds have all of us been able to get the joy of casting? And seemingly one of the most common places for Echo to clutch out a round is this site. I don't do the numbers. I'm not your usual Jesse.
Thank goodness,
I'm
right?
your fun Jesse. That's blonde and British.
I mean, I'm not a numbers guy either. You know, and I let Jesse take the wheel on that one. I'm certainly not a pro. Neither of us.
I don't think you could
pro players.
stop Jesse taking the wheel on that one.
True. Very, very true. Right now, the middle floor is the main focus for DarkZero. They lose Kobe Lax, who had peaked one of the kill holes. And he dies at the hands of Surf. Kobe on 7 kills at this point. I mean, SQ definitely have players that can keep up with him, but at the current point in time, the attackers have the very defined advantage. And as you see what the Buck is looking for, Pambazoo wants to ensure that a drop over towards the bomb chassis by Freezer is doable. He doesn't have confidence that it will work just yet. Bolo getting ever closer. Diffuser will be in the hands of Nafe. If the objective is going to come down, he's going to be the one to do it.
Forced out 20 seconds. Now's your time to, well, try and throw the Hail Mary. I said it wasn't how they wanted the ship to land last time, and this time they're trying to do it again. Off of the back of Soniqs' hold. 5 of them still standing. Only 3 left, 2 left from the side. There's a triple for Surf, and I mean, ride the wave. It's a single player watching from far away. Pamba can't really do anything at this point other than hope that he stops a flawless, which he does. But that's it. That's all.
Yeah. We have live reactions of other people now, by the way.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we cut to Ambi, I don't know where their camera is, but it looks like they are looking in like they know. Obviously, they don't know, but maybe they know.
Ambi looks like he is trapped in a cell. It just looks like, it honestly just looks like a foundation of a basement. I'm assuming he's playing in a basement.
It does.
Unlike Jesse, by the way, who's been just like dropping information about
how many echo clutches would happen on that side?
Like where people are.
Oh, do they? Well, they love map-based games.
True.
They're a real flags of the world kind of guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Get them and Milosh into a quiz about flags of the world. They'd have the best time. You wouldn't, you'd be bored, but they would have the best time. It's one of the 2 competitions they like to do, and the other one is running. Fun fact, if you ever see Jesse at a major, challenge them to a running race.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. They're quick. I think they've raced easy before. The observer we have today, or one of them. I don't know who won, but I'm assuming Easy is probably going to say that they did.
I understand the whole they thing that you're going on right now, but which person is they in that particular instance?
Easy. They are the winner of the race. Easy. He is the winner of the race. I'm not doing it in like a gendered way. Not everything is political, Parker. This isn't a bang-on. This is Siege 3-2.
I haven't done one of those in a long time.
DarkZero. Still in the lead, but obviously that round was far from what they wanted. But it was after Soniqs' timeout. It's always the fairest thing to bring together. Obviously, this is their map, but still ending on the 3 apiece, getting themselves on the defense. And now we get the cams facts. Thank you, production. We now get to see live reactions of everybody.
Hooray! Everybody begin to clap, please.
What's the live NGR reaction to us getting the live reactions to everybody?
I want to see it.
And I won't know how to feel until we get that. Hey! Still the same. Cool as ever.
Bolo's now outside, staring over towards pillars. The Glass go on in first. That's Kobe on that position. Oh my, Pamazoo missing an opportunity onto the Humidor above. Pamazoo will now head for a different direction. Is that hatch open? Yes. Expecting maybe a drop to be had. Bolo has walked into the bomb site. He's suffering through it. He sees Grixer eliminating him. Pambazoo also a kill as well. Bolo's got the diffuser on the Ash. He will turn his back towards Laundry as Pambazoo gets gunned down by Rexon. Numbers right now favoring DarkZero, and it will continue to go in that direction. Rexon, the only player seemingly with a pulse in this round. Canadian with 1 kill to his name. His former team, 3 players staring him down. There goes Rexon. Canadian will need to clutch this one out. Doesn't have much help here through the kill holes on the floor. I imagine it's Kobilax who'll be watching this. And there's the damage being done through the wall. Kobilax finishing it off. I think that's 9 kills for Kobilax in the first half. A very impressive showing.
I mean, that's everything right you want from them, right? They've obviously been building and building. Abby's gone. They've been building and building and getting themselves in towards this series, in towards getting up to tier 1 play, getting involved. When you have big roster changes, you have question marks. When you have them with people that are unknown entities to a lot of people outside of the scene, outside of the knowledge on a very famous, familiar team towards the bigger stages, you have even more, and you want to know, well, what can they do? And that's so much pressure for a young player, a fresh player, especially one that has to lead in on that gun game. And here, on the glass, adding to an already impressive tally over the game itself. Kobe is just shutting things down right now. Pamba, again, at the same time, 6-2. You know, far from a quiet game. Bolo stepping in. All of DZ is definitely on a bit of a scream on this, the opening map. 4 of their attacks locked in. I'm not going to say this is, you know, done at this point. Obviously, it's technically only 2 rounds difference. Maybe we'll just have an attacker-sided cafe, but the way DarkZero have controlled the space of this map and the chaos that keeps happening, seemingly going into their favor, it just feels like they've had that one extra step up on what wants to be accomplished.
It sure seems that way. First half, by the way, DarkZero has been very good on their entry. They will now need to see what they can do on the roam. Can they be as aggressive as they were? Can they set that same tempo as they were when they were on attack? Soniqs have already called their timeout, and things did not improve all that much. Emmy? Ambi's numbers underwater. Grixer not having a great start. Same with Rex and Surf, the only one who's been able to stand up to this team. And while Bolo is fragging out really well, it's Kobe who's been the star of the show. Canadian having an uncharacteristically poor game this stage. He's actually been doing much better in the fragging department and has been providing a lot of value when you look at his EPS. But this game, boy oh boy, he has not fared as well as he could. He was also not a highlight player in yesterday's matchup against SSG. So, I mean, you don't always need him to do well, but if Canadian could only muster a couple kills, a team like Soniqs will struggle for it. Kobe going on a jump out, he will immediately reposition. It's been given away to SQ, and now it's Panbazoo, next one, in line for SQ's Thunder.
Oh, just missed the first fight. There they have the full awareness. No, Rexon was close. You could see the drone whirring. They were hunting the player. And unfortunately, could not net the kill on the end of it. They're at least able to cut the rotate up. The track stingers will be in place. They can start getting this verticality done. The heavy work already started. I mean, between a buck and a ram, surely it won't take them a long time to get everything done. They can start actually playing focus towards the site itself. Maybe we'll get an execute that isn't something that happens in the final 15 seconds. That has been a little bit of a strange consistency throughout most of this game so far. But we are taking closer and closer towards it. I'm still sort of waiting to see where the pressure's going to come towards. Otherwise, you know, you've got the bottom of White Stairs that hasn't really had its route on through. You've got the chance at going towards Bakery, but they haven't done a lot of work, so I'm assuming it's going to be pressure onto VIP, see if they can tuck themselves behind the chassis. There's the Bakery pressure, and it's shut down almost immediately. They try to move in behind the Blitz, the back and forth, its engagements on the far side as well. They're actually alone, but Grix somehow gets the end of NJR amongst it with a Flores drone. 15 seconds, all right, maybe the execute is coming together, but without the kit, it's not going to get very far. Sprays down red towards the backside of VIP. As I said, it's the position they need to clear, but with Ambi cut in the middle of the site, he's spinning circles in 5 seconds. At some point, Rexon, you're going to have to try and get your head down. All the cover comes through. The smoke canister isn't in the right place, but Pamba, oh, he was about to be, but someone else got there first.
He gets dropped from multiple angles as you saw the bullets whizzing overhead. Yet another good round from DZ, and a reminder, SQ used their timeout. There's no way to slow this down. Just as we saw in our very first matchup, this one could end up being a quick one if SQ cannot regain their footing. They had a rough start, and it has been all DZ since then. Saw the shield play of Canadian get ever closer. He's been the resident shield player for this Soniqs team. He was doing the same on DZ. But with Monty banned, it's a lot harder to be as effective as a blitz as it is with the Mountain, who can, of course, fully extend. DarkZero starting off their side in the right direction with a victory, and they will now go upstairs. Here's a bit of a rarity. We have a Jaeger on the board. Jaeger is an operator who has been forgotten amongst the pro players. It's just the value that the ADS brings is not what it used to be. His gun isn't what it used to be. His speed isn't what it used to be. I said this unironically, but I mean, you could bring back Jaeger ACOG, and I think that would fix a lot of these issues. But
you just triggered so many people.
You're welcome.
Like sleeper agents. They just sat up. That's how
You're welcome.
I think give Thermite frags again. I'm not thinking of this from a balancing perspective. I just like playing Thermite. and I like having frag grenades. And they're barely as much use as they used to be. Nath, prepping that castle, so it's a hit away from being able to get quick escape. I mean, the thing is, if they're putting pressure onto it from the back, it will be using some ranged explosive. They'll be throwing an ash charge at it. It's going to be destroyed instantly anyway, unless you've got a Wamai disc. If it's going from the front and they're suddenly putting pressure on top red, you could then have an escape yourself. You don't have to rip it. You don't have to do the long animation. You can get a little bit out of dodge for yourself. It just buys you some chance. The chance of them being stepping next to it and getting rid of it is very rare.
No, Rare actually plays in Brazil.
Oh, right. Where do you play?
I don't play anywhere. I'm not a player. I'm a commentator.
Oh, that explains some things. This explains why they're putting pressure on towards Cigar. Warden's holding on. As I said, if he wants to make a quick escape, he has options. Being shot in the face is the one that he decided to go with. Ambi takes care of some of the Cigar control here. He's still not obviously gone with any full depth. He needs the support to come from his teammates to make sure that he can do exactly this as they get themselves on towards the piano and the stage windows. He can start eyeing down the gauntlet of crossing the divide towards the plant.
That was a great play to get Nafe out of that position. They thought the nade would actually work, but they followed up and did what needed to be done. Now they've got control of piano and can begin to pick away at this bathroom and freezer portion of the map. They'll grab one of those bulletproof cameras along the way. There should still be one remaining. Oh my, Ambi getting Pambazoo. I don't know if DarkZero was aware of how exposed they were from inside a piano. 1 minute to go in the round. And another there for Ambi as he is hunting them for sport. Bolo dies to Rexit and a flawless round was won by DZ not long ago. SQ won't get there as Grixer down below dies, but he'll hit him in the chat. I don't know if you want to be saying that in the chat when you've only won 3 rounds on your own map at this point, but
And
I think it adds to the storyline, that's for sure.
he's lying as well. We quite obviously saw he was not laughing out loud, Parker.
He typed LOL, but he was not laughing.
He was not LOL.
That's ridiculous.
I can put up with it, but lying on the internet? Who would do that?
It's unforgivable, really.
Ambi here, the third. I mean, great chance of getting the fourth there as he swung ready for the fight. It's everything you kind of want from the player. It was some of those great drives that we've had from them across the time, and seeing them sort of stretch their legs, especially with, you know, if I make the points earlier about Kobe stepping in, you want to see these young gunners, you want to see them apply themselves when they come into rosters with so much potential. Soniqs for a long time were that roster as well. Obviously they've gone through some pretty big changes of their own, but when Ambi was brought in, you're like, you know, they're playing alongside people like Citizen, they're playing along, what can they do, what can they bring, what are they going to show, and they showed it so well. And that's almost that answer that you need to it. Canadians a little bit behind the pack at this point. But if the young gunners can start to step up, this game could suddenly find itself tied up as Soniqs get another round. 5-3. DarkZero aren't still a million miles away. Remember, this is Soniqs' map as well, and we head to Chalet next.
Chalet will be required. Border will be an intriguing match for this to end off on. I would really love to actually see a border between these two teams just for how ugly and chaotic it could get. To get there first, though. The way that Soniqs have been playing, I fear that we won't make it there. They definitely need to step up their game at this point. Other interesting operators being brought. Amaru on Cafe is not rare, but it's not particularly common. Zofia as well going up there. Canadian has been having a very, very bad day. Incredibly ineffective on his role as he's picked apart yet again. And a 1-7 score line through 9 rounds is just not good enough. Bolo's been down, which puts us at a 3v3, despite what the numbers say. Kobe is finished off. Bolo has been retrieved because there was a dock on the board. Ambi has woken up and chosen violence at this point, single-handedly taking this DZ team to the woodshed and beating the ever-living stuffing out of them. It's all up to Bolo and Nave.
3 versus 2 and slivers of health on the side of Grixer, but they can just try and get a little bit of a catch. I mean, it's a hell of a hammer in the hands of Bolo. The long-range fights, and Nath with the spray can get things pretty locked in, or the spread of the pellets. Remember, the pressure of the plant is still on the side. And Ambi, I think, was toying up with the idea of whether he pops up from the hatch there and tries to sneak themselves inside. For that, I think they need better control of this area where Nath has gone towards the washroom, towards White Stairs. Otherwise, as soon as you go up, you're just going to get knocked back down, so they go for the take on towards White Stairs. Get themselves set up above, see if they can try and force these players out. Obviously, the kit is a bit isolated too, but they have to think of how they can try and get the bite, the surprise strike here. They have the man advantage, and if they don't approach this cleverly, as soon as they start to get a knock, if they can just find, what, a whiff of an engagement, you can assume Bolo and Nath are going to try and settle this. 30 seconds, and again, still trying to find the loose players. How DarkZero have moved. The pair of them rotate their way around towards dining. They're going to get the cover here, just on the door, and go for the drop itself. There won't be an immediate reaction. Instead, a tuck down there. A couple of steps closer towards the site, towards the kit. The rotations come through from the side of DZ, but there's Bolo. Caught out, drifting in the corridor, leaving Nath, who's drifted their way upstairs. They have known and noticed, so you assume they're going to dining to plant. They are, they have. They're away from the side of the vertical. Nath is otherwise fishing for Surf, but he's tucked so far out, he's not going to get caught. That was a very clever read there from Soniqs.
Soniqs are closing this gap, and here we go. Very, very methodical in the way that they approach that top floor, and then good patience as they basically waited for the DZ players to find themselves in harm's way. And I mean, if you think that your opponents are going to be a little bit too overeager, you can punish them respectfully. And that's exactly what SQ did, as Ambi made so much space here. Look at this. That SMG-11 obviously shredding right through them, and it completely destroys DZ's hold upstairs. There was still one player in back bar, but weren't able to be much of an impact on this round. Now downstairs, DarkZero will go and hope for better luck on this kitchen bomb site. Soniqs are slowly pulling this matchup together. The problem is that if DZ wins one more round, they sit on match point. That makes the job even harder for Soniqs, as they need to go through overtime to get it done. Both of these teams have players that are experienced enough to know that long matches are quite commonplace, and I don't think that inexperience will be much of an issue here. I mean, Surf is probably, I guess Ambi is technically the least experienced player on Soniqs, though I think you could maybe argue that Surf is the least experienced because Ambi's played in international competition before. Kobe is the player on DarkZero that has the least experience, but I mean, you wouldn't know it if you saw the way that he was playing. The man has ice in his veins, and he has been quite the standout for DZ. I say it every time we talk about one of these teams, and since we have both of them in the same match, Canadian moving off of DarkZero and going to Soniqs, Nath taking over DarkZero entirely seems to have been a change that benefited both teams equally. DarkZero, obviously the best team in North America based on their record, so I think it's safe to say that they have succeeded the most. But it's always nice to see two teams make a change, have them both do well. Right now, DarkZero with the advantage. Just over 2 minutes to go.
Now, Soniqs coming into this, statistically, were the best attacking team out of the NA League so far. 56% round win from the side of their attacks. DarkZero is a 51. However, funnily enough, they're against the best defending team. 66% was DarkZero's confirmation, 56. So a little bit more balanced across Soniqs' front and back, but it means that when they hit heads on this side, you're really getting the truest taste of the two teams, and Rexon starts it off still showing why they were that dominant attacking force, and there's NJR with that defensive lockdown response. Quick movement inside coat check to check if anybody's coats are there. No. Still see if they can try and cross the divide of the long red corridor off towards Wedding. You can see Ambi on the far side trying to get some control of Bakery, be the sort of anvil to the back of the hammer that comes across, and the smoke isn't gonna see around what happens. Close right, jiggling the shotgun, gets one, gets dropped. Canadian is at least able to keep it even, keep it back and forth, but he's stuck right now. I'm not going to say it's a rush, but they're hoping that they can draw them out of shape to get into positions to punish them. Ambi almost caught the side of Kobe, but Kobe wants to maybe step back in. He's cautious for the advance. As soon as he turns around, there might be a blitz on his shoulder. He's trusting the cover to come through. Depending on where they go and where they've gone from, there's sort of this keen traded awareness. Ping it out, get the reveal on the player and the gadget. At this point, a change of pace and a play. They're focusing instead here on towards VIP, on towards maybe hitting that soft wall on the back of White. The worry of time is still there. NJR is still worried about Bakery because they haven't got that locked down. But if they don't hear a presence there within 10 seconds, you can assume it's a bit of a full send inside. And there's the Blitz. Going for a bit of an approach. There's a fight down the long corridor instead. They're jiggling every single corner. They want to go for the plant. They want to go for the coverage. There's a bit of motion here from Kobe. He's trying to dig his way back around the bar. And there's NJR, as I said. As soon as he gets the read that there's nobody in front of him, he's just got to turn around and do the damage behind. Kobe wants to step in off the shield, up and off the top rope for the double for the end. And DarkZero just held in. Great positional awareness from the new pick.
What did I say right before we went into this round? The danger zone for Soniqs as they were putting together this fine comeback was a single round, and now the road to victory gets even longer, all because they've allowed DZ to hit round 6 in terms of victories. I don't fear for either of these teams in these long matches. I mean, it means that we will have a longer night, but it's already the morning for you. I'm all right with this match going the full distance, and honestly, I do expect it, but if DZ can take map number 1, I don't know if Soniqs can stand up to DZ on Chalet. Don't need to get ahead of ourselves, though. Soniqs won 2 rounds in a row on attack. DZ winning 1 round, losing 2, win 1 round. Soniqs need to win the next 2, or that's it. That's the ball game here on Cafe. Honestly, I mean, the big thing with Soniqs that stands out to me is how ineffective Canadian has been. He likes to play very high-value operators on attack and on defense. On defense, he plays a flex role where he can be all over the map, but if he plays a sheltered role, he excels better. You don't necessarily want him being the first point of contact against the attackers because he doesn't have the greatest mechanical ability, but his game sense is the thing that really makes up for it. On operators like Capital, which he's playing now, the Blitz that he's played before, those are very high-value operators that good game sense allows you to get more out of. Capital in particular, you use those flame bolts to either clear out an area or dislodge a particularly hard-to-reach defender, and also use it for area denial. As for the smokes, your goal is to conceal the advance of the rest of your teammates. But Canadian is not the only underperformer on Soniqs. Grixer going 5 and 8 is well below his standards too. Surf and Ambi have been doing a fine job, but the rest of the team need to be able to find that other gear if they want to keep this close against DZ.
The Clash to try and offer just a rebuttal towards any approach that's driven on towards them. Obviously, they've got everything to slow it down. The castles cutting their way here across the cocktail side, and will be made slightly quick work, but I like that their attention to detail is that we're seeing Soniqs on the previous round trying to be sharp, trying to be more direct across the floor. They hit with the Blitz, they hit towards coat check. No, this is a different side, obviously, but let's slow that down. Let's put more obstacles in the way, more force of a utility, eat that out of them at this point so we don't have to have such a quick response. Canadian gets Bolo. With the Kirk and the Clash is gone. Not sure what trapped them so much, but apparently it was more than enough to get the kill without them even really having to enter. Curious.
Ambi has all 3 of those death marks at his disposal. When will SQ use them? They've already found themselves in a great spot with that pick onto Bolo, Emmy. A lot of teams like to leave at least 2 of those marks. Oh, it almost got bad there until the execute comes out. Knave catches Grixer sleeping upstairs. And suddenly, a spanner's been thrown into the works. Soniqs realize they no longer have the top floor the way that they thought. So now it's Rexon, the reflex test. Try to draw Nafe out of this position and fire through the wood, but there we go. Canadian gets it. A relatively easy kill for Troy. And now, with 35 seconds left, Soniqs hold a numbers advantage of 1. It's do or die. They lose this round, it's over. NJR's been dropped as well, so there's only 2 still standing for DZ.
I think NJR might have been maybe trying to get a C4 play up through the hatch itself, but was obviously caught out. Here, though, not a huge amount of time, and that's the danger. They have the vertical. Canadians just going to try and tuck inside the door and go for the plant. You can assume it's a Pamba, steps in, wants to be the swing. The door is covered very well by Ambi. There's Kobe, predicted and caught. And I think at that point, you know, when they got that vertical control, there was a little bit of sneakiness that came from hiding behind a banister and popping up from Nafe, but otherwise not enough. I'm still curious what happened with the clash there.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff that have happened in this match that I'm really eager to find out about. DarkZero is going to pull their timeout. They do not want to go to overtime, and they will use this in their hopes of being a knockout punch, sending Soniqs onto their back foot as DZ have the next map. You're hearing that correctly. 6-5 in favor of DZ on SQ's map. I mean, I've struggled, honestly. I'm not a color caster, and I mean, both you and I are play-by-plays.
Yeah.
I've struggled to really quantify what's going wrong with Soniqs. On attack, it looks like they are not that well pronounced. Canadian has been the lead point for a number of these rounds, and I don't think he's been getting the job done. Ambi's been there for a very quick follow-up, and he's been fine. But DZ are locking them down at this point. Mute has been a stable operator pick, which means that you have your work cut out for you in gaining information. And I mean, here's what's happened with the clash, by the way.
Right.
There's Canadian's fire arrow.
No, I saw that it was the fire arrow that got the kill, but I was thinking, well, surely they didn't just stand in it. Where was the other pressure that forced them out of that situation? And there was a lot of explosions happening at the same time. I think they were tucked into the corner by grenades. So they couldn't step forward or they would die to grenade. And then they also set fire as well. It was just a bit mean, really. If I was to describe it. But we're not color casters.
That's true.
If I was Jesse,
Okay.
I would say I'd be at a wedding. I wouldn't be here. I would say it's a bit mean because here's some stats.
5 seconds left.
You know, Parker, that's basically my Jesse impression.
That's good. I mean, you've been casting together. You've known each other for a long time, but you've been casting together not a long time. So to get that far is decent. I can't do a Hap impression because I don't speak Dutch. And he doesn't speak English. 6-5, DarkZero. They've had their timeout. As you said, they want to push this over the edge now. They want to go into Chalet and keep this sort of game hot and get this locked out in 2. Get that first place secured, get the extra purse, get the extra points, and get to bed. What time?
I mean, it depends on where. What time is it here? It's 9:22 p.m.
Ah.
Thank you for saving me from having to work with Flynn again.
I'm sorry. I thought they
I
were,
do like.
They're your
like
best
Flynn.
mate. You talk about hockey.
Yes, I do like Flynn. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, look, Flynn.
Well, very important round for both of these teams. DarkZero has used their timeout. Neither of these teams have an ability to talk to their coaches again. But for anybody who needs just a refresher on how this works, both teams are able to talk to their coaches, which means that even though they didn't call it, Soniqs will be able to hear from Super and diagnose what's going wrong. We'll also give Canadian more time to be effective in the leadership department. He's not been very effective in the killing department.
I mean, at least he's pulling some weight somewhere, but then, you know, you look at the sort of weight of this game. Technically, his cost is better than Grix's over this game, regardless of the stats. He's just had a couple more impacts on it, so still a bit behind. And it's a similar story for NJR on the other side. Hasn't quite been able to get themselves in as consistently as some of the rest of the team. But obviously, when you're the one step ahead and you've got someone that's on a 2.0 KD, it's not the end of the world to be a little bit further away. The battle between Kobe and Ambi still raging and raining on between the pair of them. Who is going to be the one that stands triumphant at the end of this map? Probably going to be the same as the team that gets it, as that much of a dictation of the players. The verticality is generally all under the control here. You can see they're still a bit cautious about the top of white stairs and worried about maybe the chance of a rotate up. Almost catch. And pushing back towards dining from the side of the train room. But as the buck is steadying away, confident they're not going to get C forward, but look at the timer once again. Parker, everything is going to come down to the wire here. They're still trying to get clearance down in the garage. They're still trying to find themselves, maybe just sending it. DarkZero's played themselves a couple of steps away, and Rexon finally finds the first kill, but 10 seconds left, and kill might be Just defined by the time at this point. Round the back, knifed in the face, and NJR getting the kill inside the site. They're going to see if they can stick it. Canadian is holding F with all of his might and does get it secured. Now with a single kill in the corridor, it's all leveled up in a post-plant situation. Locked toe-to-toe at this. Ambi, I said they might be the defining factor for their team. They will be that right here. It's a 2 versus 1. They have to make sure they are not caught by this. A rotate up towards the top. They're watching, they're waiting, they're playing the vertical angles. They don't have a lot of time to make this happen. The punch through. Ambi gets the lock onto one. It's Bolo from the bottom, Ambi from the top. They're looking for the connection. They don't have the time. They've hopped themselves around. And there's the pickup.
Wow.
It's all lols, but it's OT.
I think that's a bit of a misplay from DarkZero with the way that they handled that. Bolo was looking for a kill through those openings where Ambi had governed for quite some time, but Bolo decided to instead tussle with the diffuser and focusing on the case. It might not have been the wrong play if the other player above had been able to get that kill. I think it was NJR. Yes, it was. He was tasked with doing that, but NJR got caught coming, and in this case, Ambi was actually exposed to the opening when he got that pick. It's entirely possible Bolo could have made it work, but instead he hopped on the diffuser. They were just a bit out of sync with each other, and it is hard to pair that up at the same time. But either way, it works out in favor of Soniqs. Ambi, who has emerged in this second half as a completely different player, is the difference maker for SQ, and there is still life for the team in teal on the right side of your screen.
It's always that sort of moment, right? Where at the start of the round, you highlight 2 players, you say they are the defining factor, and then the one that has the better round is the one that proves it, gets them into OT, gets themselves the best KD in the map so far, and Kobe now is the one that playing chase, playing catch up, trying to get to where Ambi has got to, and you know that they have the ability to step it up. It's just seeing if they can, and obviously you look at the selection of maps we have. From this into Chalet, into potentially Border, they are all so aggressive. They reward quick, fast play. They have to have you on your sharpest. And that is something that turns into a marathon if these maps go into OT with this level of traded consistency. Will they be able to buck the trend here? It has been heavily attacker-driven. Soniqs have that momentum working in their favor, but Kitchen is the site where we've had 2 DarkZero round wins.
Here goes the Ram. Lots of soft destruction being brought from Soniqs. Emmy actually just missed out on Nafe down below. Surf could have presumably gotten a pick with that, but instead will allow Nafe to exist longer than maybe Nafe expected, or could have rather. Out will go yet another boogie drone as Surf just continues to tear through these floors, not over the bomb site directly, but close enough to it. There's the boogie going. So cause great discomfort for the players down below as they lose some of the ceiling above them and they lose some of the security with it.
Yeah, with these angles, they've done a good job of shepherding the players further out. You can see, obviously, only a single set of shoes currently dirtying the kitchen floors. But alongside everything watched above, it's Nafe holding on to this close power position, waiting for maybe some pressure, a ram boogie drone, or the lead-in of somebody trying to get rid of the electrics on the hatch to get the drop on it. It doesn't seem like that's the focus. The Buck is instead going to be the one that steps in, the break of the fire, the Buck getting some work and not getting anywhere close to it, keeping themselves as safe as possible from the chance of a C4. They know the game, they know the risk, and they are refusing to play right now. Just under a minute left, and the pressure on towards the hatch. There's the play. Are we going to get that pressure that they waited around for? No, they don't feel entirely confident. The hatch is opened. We now need to see him close down onto VIP.
Final 40 seconds. We saw the first death come in the previous round, Emmy, with 20 seconds left. Are we going to hit that same timer? Here goes some of those track stingers. Grimbees will go down as well. Rexon, who watched as some of his gadgetry was destroyed, punches Kobe and gets that first pick. A whole lot of gas awaits the drop from Canadian inside a freezer. He is running out of time and will now go for the drop, but evading it for the time being. He has to run through the flames. No, Canadian taking an awful lot of damage, but he's found a safe way in. Rexon is cleaning up the entire server. Back to NJR and Nafe. As amidst the flames, Canadian stays alive, gets diffuser down. Oh my, Nafe. No, no, no! How does Nafe miss that? How poetic that it's Canadian to get the final kill. And SQ will move to map point.
When you see someone's hand go off the mouse, you know what they're doing. That was a quick all chat there. I mean, frustrating way for that to go away from you, especially with the trade of those players. Fine. We're calling this the bad blood beatdown. Cool. I love it. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a match that you're sort of almost weirdly seeing as the start of a story. You're not seeing this as the end. You want to see these two teams hit heads at the major. You want to see this being the first step up of like a best of 3 going. This is how they handle. And then you want to see it when the loss is on the line, when it's the chance of fighting to be maybe the last remaining NA team. I don't know. I don't write the storylines. It's for other people.
He missed all of those shots, by the way. He was aiming very clear of the body. That is an unfortunate place. I mean, he was aiming for center mass, which I get it. That's got to be a heartbreaking way for it to end. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the round, to be completely honest. There was way too many players on Soniqs that were still alive, so even if he'd killed Canadian, it would have been a nice pick. Then the harder job becomes either staying on that floor and finding people below, or simply fighting your way downstairs. Has it been, by the way, 13 rounds of no tech issues? Fascinating stuff.
It's crazy. I mean,
kudos to both of these teams for not having any issues.
Things got sorted out. And their issue is that they want to beat each other. What we have as a sort of underrated statistic that we probably harp on is the entry game. Rexen locked it in the last 4 rounds, 3 of them going Soniqs' way. Rexen has been the one that's able to get that first kill. Yeah, it's come late 2 of those times, but having a consistency that was other a traded statistic that was quite back and forth. We talk about how Ambi stepped up. We talk about how things have come together, but Rexen has sort of been the silent killer. He is now 1 step ahead as well against Kobe. He's been able to fall himself into that second spot, and the pair of them, and Ambi, on the second half, can they try and find a way to bring that energy on towards their defense? There's, again, some attempts at slowing them down, some denial. The Capcans probably won't catch anyone unless they're real low on time. They need to get rid of the electrics onto that wall, which it doesn't look like that impact worked. And there's the follow through. That one has.
We'll poke some small holes in this beachhead that's been established by Soniqs. DZ are spread out over on the white windows, as well as over towards Piano, and Capitao, as he was in Troy's hands, and will now be the same in Bolo's hands, is a very high value utility operator. Bolo has used almost all that utility up to this point. All that remains is one of the fire arrows. A cheeky spot of the Valkyrie camera will pay off for Soniqs. We'll be able to net some good visibility when DZ eventually gets into the building and close to that part of the map. Final minute now. Soniqs on their very first match point on this map, and they've been either tied or trailing. If they're able to overcome this, it'll be quite the story.
I mean, it's kind of this surprising moment right now for Soniqs, and yeah, it's a game of 2 halves. They've got a much better attack statistic, but it's not that it was a million miles away and it was their choice of play. Pamba gets the first, Rexen, I compliment their entry game, and then they fall to it for the first time since I think the first round of the whole game, so my bad. But can they try and at least get the conversion? Nafe's knocking on the door of the site itself, trying to drive into Grix, so the cover comes. Bolo's there, and Ambi does find Pamba, but with them inside the site, going for the plant, they have some of the security, and they're making hay while the sun shines, and Ambi's looking in the wrong places. We get bright outlines. It's easier for us to see where the players are, but at this point, it's Canadian just watching players run away. They go to hold themselves around up top to make sure nobody tries to link up, and leaving just Surf fighting their way through the train carriage with the repel position on the window, with the split on towards Reading. They've got themselves either side. They could play on contact if they want. They could play on the diffuser sound if they want. They know Surf, but as soon as they do, they're going to pop up on this window. They can't see anything. So NJR sees them. We are going all of the way.
Unsurprising here on map number 1, and this will be a gauntlet that these teams are going to have to run through. Really just is an attacker-sided cafe in overtime, isn't it now? I do fear for Soniqs that they've been pushed to the brink on their own map. These two teams are, of course, juggernauts. I get that. But it is not a good look when you need all 15 rounds to win your own map. Mental resiliency was touched upon in the earlier rounds, and it will be as important as ever in this particular matchup. If you're SQ, mentally, you have to reset after this match. Easy pick Chalet. You go to it. If you go with any bad juju, any bad vibes, anything like that, you're going to be in trouble. Soniqs have been trailing in most of this matchup, so it's not even about whether you get a win or a loss. This has been an extremely hard-fought match for both of these teams. And if you actually play Rainbow Six Siege, if you lose a very close game in the actual match, it says heartbreaking defeat. No matter what happens, it will be a heartbreaking defeat for either of these teams in this map. But even worse for Soniqs. As they picked it, the expectation is they can win it. And not only are they not in a position where they've won it just yet, but they've been pushed all the way by DZ. Might be smooth sailing for DZ if they can win on this map and then go to Chalet. They'll go on defense. Final round of Cafe.
On towards Mining Room. The site that we just had the C4 to open, and it's Nafe on Canadian. Well, there's a little bit of revenge. They probably no one they would have preferred to have on the end of that C4. After what happened the last time here, they've buried some of their demons. Canadian must watch. And you said it before, they love to play big impact operators. Capital, all of the smokes, all of the fire. We've seen how effective they've been with that throughout this showdown and how effective that operator just is. Now you've got to try and force this ground with not a lot of coverage. What are you going to do? Force them with Flores drones? Not quite as effective. At least you've got 4 grenades to try and catch the back on it. The charges are going to start, but Bolo waiting tucked. Ambi finds Nafe, levels it out, but Pamba keeps the spread going. Bolo's caught as he tries to rotate out of there. It's just traded back and forth on the top floor. Kobe finally finds a kill after a sort of period of not getting anything locked in. Ambi is still on the board. That's the worry, and there's a part of me that wanted to turn into a 1 versus 1 fight between the pair of them, but that's down now for the pressure of Grixer and Ambi. See if they can try and lead in on the back foot. 2 C4s still in pocket as well. They can play this so hands-off if they want to, DarkZero.
Grixer holds on to that diffuser, so Ambi, the best player statistically for Soniqs, though Rexon has been catching up, will be the one to do oversight. 2 death marks to go, and 1 will be sent out in direction of Kobe. I think that's the correct operator to go off of. Not just the operator, but also the correct player. Kobe's been that big obstacle, and I know that you wanted a 1v1 between Kobe and Ambi, but it might not materialize. That death mark will now expire. Kobe has hit the deck, but Ambi knows exactly where his positioning is and will march up and actually miss out on it. Good Lord, look at this patience from Kobe. This could be devastating for Soniqs.
They have the cross angle. They're going for the plant, and no! Sees the legs, but Pamba's there on the trade, and Grixer has to pull off. 20 seconds, and he knows one's at least far away, so he has to try and isolate this fight before the vertical becomes the death. Pistols at dawn, but shotguns are preferred, and DarkZero finally put an end to a map that felt like it could go on forever.
DZ wins, and boy, oh boy, that will be a weight off of their shoulders. Soniqs will have to mentally overcome that matchup, and as you can see, there is a lot of frustration on their faces, rightfully so. As for DarkZero, elation spreads through their bench, but they've still got 1 more map to secure their spot as the best team in North America. At least 1 more map to go, but DZ start off hot, stealing Soniqs' map away. We'll be back after this break.
I dining.
I'll plant, Nick Payne. I was in train, in engine, not planted.
I'm getting next above. Cannot plant.
In train, hopped into the rotate. Rush off you, Nick, left side. Right side now. Pistol out. Nice! Well played, boys. Fucking good mental.
My bad, Kobe.
You're good, you're good.
Well, it goes the distance there on the first map. Would you expect anything less from this match? Soniqs not able to get it done. DarkZero, they'll clock it in double overtime. It was a hero plays by Kobe across the board, I think was one of the best things about that.
I mean, I was just about to say, I would like to see the stats of that game, specifically highlighting Kobe, how well he's been playing, especially being that rookie. But I mean, both teams going back and forth. There's really nothing that I can nitpick from either one of these teams. They both are really bringing it. I mean, they clearly want to prove that they are better than the other. I mean, you go the distance for the first map, just gives me high expectations going into Chalet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the old DZ was always known for going the distance, going to overtime. And now we got DZ and Canadian in the same server, so it would only make sense that they go the distance. But obviously, yeah, I agree. Unlike the previous game that we saw in map 1, where it went to overtime and every round was just sloppy back and forth, this game really was a battle of two titans. Every round was deservingly so going in one of the other's favors, and it was bouncing back and forth. Honestly, it just didn't work out in Soniqs' favor. That was Soniqs' map pick to go to this to kind of isolate DarkZero in this limited mobility map. But unfortunately for them, I mean, Kobe's been doing amazing on the entry. He's really been really good ever since yesterday, since we saw him, especially on border. Whenever DZ needs to turn the jets on and they're entering, I mean, so far it's been working out really well for them.
I mean, even for Ambi's been playing phenomenally since the playoffs have even started. He has not let his foot off the gas. So I'm really, again, these are the best two teams that we're going to be sending to Montreal. I cannot be any happier with the performance that we are seeing so far throughout this first match going into the next match than what Montreal looked like. Yeah, I mean, again, Ambi, a pop-off performance, 17-8. I mean, wow. And then you look at Kobe-Lax, and this is what I said about Kobe-Lax in the beginning. You know, I want to see consistency from him. I didn't want him to just see one good game and then he tapers off throughout the rest of the league, where we may have seen some players that come into the league. Kobe has just been performing every single game, and I think that highly has to do with DZ changing their style of play and changing the dynamic of what they look like as a roster. Both these teams have just been so exciting to watch throughout this first match.
Yeah, and Kobe wasn't necessarily entering. I mean, he had 0 opening kills. He was more or less being the player to be an X factor. And I mean, we heard Rexon talk about it in the early interview. All the young players come in, they are X factors. And that's exactly what Kobe was. You never really knew where he was coming from, but he was always being a presence, taking space. And on the other side, I mean, the other rookie on the other team, Ambi, you're right. I mean, unfortunate for him to be the biggest slayer in the server and unfortunately lose it down. I mean, going that distance and losing is never good for the mental. So going into map 2, shaking that off is obviously the best step at a new team of Soniqs to be able to see how can, you know, the IGL and the coaching system be able to shake it off for the players, just focus on the next map and right the wrongs that they did in this map, which there wasn't too many. I mean, it really was a good back and forth.
And when you look at going into Chalet, when you think about the maps and both these teams, when they did match up and play Chalet, DZ played to SSG. That's where we first saw their new form and first saw that first aggressive play style. They ended up beating SSG, where we thought SSG was going to walk away with that. And then Soniqs, when they played SSG, they were on top. I believe, it was 6-2, and then they ended up losing that game due to SSG just pushing through.
6-3,
so I am a little more worried for Soniqs because they did let their foot off the gas in that game. And then coming off of this just recent loss of going to the limit, where DZ on the other end, they looked really strong on Chalet. They looked strong throughout this. Both teams look strong. It just looks like DZ just has a little more gas in that tank.
You know, I don't want to focus too much on the negatives here, obviously, but I did want to hone in on one thing, which is DarkZero went into this being the #1 rated defense, right, in all of the NAL. Their defenses have not been very good in the playoffs. It feels like there's been a bit of a drop-off there.
Well, I mean, you could contribute that to their stage. They were obviously struggling on attack very heavily, and their defenses, they were the #1 team in the league when it came to the regular stage. So when you're a team on the outside looking in, you're probably trying to hard focus on making your attacks better, and that's what the brink of the work that you're doing outside of the server is going towards attacks. And now, I mean, you're right, attacks were the main reason why they ended up getting away with this win, why they ended up getting the qualification to Montreal. And so, yes, they have been working on it, and we can see that thriving for them. But you're right, the defenses have fallen off a little bit because they're not the primary focus for DarkZero.
But I think that also does come into fruition of more so the fact is they are versing opponents that they recently played, so the teams do understand a little bit of how they do play their defense now versus that they didn't get before. Again, speaking into those idiosyncrasies, whereas now they've played a full stage, people have VODs on them, they understand their tendencies and what they do, so they are able to, you know, counteract what that defense looks like. But the fact is that they have been working throughout their attacks, throughout their entire stage, and now coming into playoffs, their attacks are what really are pushing them past that finish line.
Fair enough. I mean, the reason that I bring it up is obviously because they are starting on the defense here on Chalet, and I don't know if that's going to be a handicap for them in some ways, because Sonic seems to have kind of figured it out.
I think it'll be a really good step for DarkZero to start on defense, because yesterday when we saw them play Chalet, they lost Chalet to M80 because of their sloppy attacks. I think they only got one or two. I think they only got one attack based off of it was a basement, a Capitao attack where they focused on the execute. Now, if they get a nice little cushion on defense and shatter Sonic's mental, which that's the next thing I was going to go into, is mentally Sonic's the only games that they have lost in the regular stage are mental battles, games where they go up, it's expected to win, and they let it slip because they get ahead of themselves. Now this is a situation where they lost the first map. Can they battle it back, shake off the mental, shake off the effect that it could have on everybody, and just stay level-headed and focus on Chalet?
And again, for the defense of DarkZero, I do really like that they are starting on because they just did come off of a hot game of winning that 8-7. So the comms are going, the teamwork is there. So being on the defensive half does allow them to play a little safer in a sense that they don't have to work around the map as much as an attack and figuring out an avenue of an approach that they want to do. It's more so just playing into their defaults, playing into their setups, working together, and then getting to that next half of the attack. So I do really like that DZ is starting out on the defensive half here, and they do have the cushion of getting that first win underneath their belt.
Well, we'll see if that win avails them here as they get ready to jump into the second match of this NAL Finals. Now to deliver you to your two casters, two sultry storytellers from the Commonwealth of Nations, it's Intero and Fluke.
Thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate all of the throws that you've done so far. And I said this to you in private, but you have done an excellent job, Korvac, on all the leagues that we've worked on. And Fluke is nodding in agreement, which means that you have both of our endorsements. There you go. Look at that. Thumbs up. Heck yeah. Just as DZ has the endorsement, I have to imagine, of the community poll. They took map number 1 away from the Soniqs, and that number for DarkZero has only grown. Canadian haters are feasting well today, as DZ now goes to their map, up 1-0.
They asked them if they're a scrim team. I like that in the angle that this is technically the top 2 teams from the region. That's my favorite kind of slam talk. Grimban, Monty, we know an Azami will happen as the 4th. We don't need to emotionally prepare for that. Whoa, it was the 3rd this time! What are DZ gonna do? Ha ha ha. I tricked you all. Canadian changed teams, and he brought with him his bands.
Valkyrie removed on Chalet. An intriguing pick. Grim and the Valkyrie bans were really the only two that stand out to me. Here, Azami and Monty make an awful lot of sense. Grim's pick rate is good. His ban rate was only 5 times prior to this matchup. Valkyrie, the 2nd most banned defender. But you know how lopsided these bans are? Azami had been banned 42 times. Valkyrie 14. Valkyrie is in 2nd. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane. After Valkyrie, it's Tubrow at 13, and then 7 bans for Mira and Kaid. It falls off a cliff. Then you get down to the 2s and the 1s. Attackers are a bit more widespread, or a bit more better spread. Monty's at 35 bans. Next is Dokkaebi at 18, Ying at 11, Blitz at 10. Shield ban's very popular. And according to Liquipedia, Azami has been banned once as an attacker, which I didn't even know how that was possible, but
That's
good for you, Azami. Good for you.
That's how much Canadian hates Azami, right? Because obviously the thing is that they all, any team that they're on just bans Azami, was Azami and Dokkaebi for a long time. And that's how, you know, the professional hater, they'll find a way to ban them on attack. Imagine Azami on attack.
No. That's what people have said. Like, could you imagine, like, Castle on attack? You run through a doorway and you just castle it off and the defenders are just, they're screwed.
I think Azami would be less problematic, but they would be fun. And by fun, I mean, let's not do it, Ubisoft. we start here on Chalet. Obviously, DarkZero have to step up, and now they've got to step in towards their map selection. I'm curious to see how we start to break bread here on this engagement. It was not really traded rounds, but traded halves more than anything. At what point will the momentum slow down? Kobe hasn't yet. They were a star performer for DarkZero on the last map. They're here, able to get the first against Rexon, who was a star entry player in the second half when they were on attack. So Soniqs, they're off to a slightly shakier foot than they were before, but it's only one kill, and they've still got a lot of utility. You lose a Nook, and you're sort of like, okay, that's a risky run.
It's also Rexon as well. If Rexon and Ambi are not able to show up in this map, I don't know if Canadian can muster a better performance than what we saw in the very first map, which leaves even more for Surf and Grixer. Surf has been pretty sensational, though, based on the numbers that the desk talked about. He'll be playing one of those high-value utility operators that Canadian was rocking on Cafe in the Capitale. First point right now for Soniqs. Take care of Library.
Slow and steady, just making sure that when they go for the entrance, there you go. When you go for the entrance, they'll be able to have some of the cover from above. There, just make sure that there isn't anything to pop as potential step in, but nobody, no lesion, no goo mines, no pressure. Where is the blitz gonna go? Valhalla, apparently. Canadian immediately cut in half as soon as they showed a side and a sliver towards the player behind the bar, and you're sort of wondering what the plan was there. There wasn't a second player going for an engagement at the same time. Surf does pick up a freebie from the mudroom, but with 30 seconds, an isolated kit in the middle of nowhere, you're kind of a bit curious as to why they decided to go for that death dive.
Pambazoo trades out Surf after Surf had got that pick on Kobe, and now Ambi's last man standing. They know he's in mudroom as he breaks through the barricade. DZ 6 rounds away from first overall, and Nafe is trying his best to give him a bit of a wee pep talk.
A wee pep talk?
Yes. I'm not going to try to do a British accent, but you're welcome to, because you always do one.
Yeah, well, so I could be wrong about this, but I'm not going to dox where they're from. But me and Nafe, I think, are from opposite ends of London, originally where we grew up. So they're on the other end, so they talk a bit more like this. And I talk a bit more like this.
I didn't notice a difference.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I don't know what the comparison is, but we're both, I think, Londoners originally. And look at us now. Kind of both in NA. I'm not stood in a dark room at 3 in the morning. You are.
I'm in a very well lit room. Actually, with some mood lighting. I'm in my office right now.
Oh.
Air conditioner going because despite the fact that it is 16 degrees in Toronto, this computer of mine tends to kick up a lot of heat, as do the lighting that I have over top of it. And it gets quite warm. And in order to be presentable, I figured I'd throw on some nicer clothing, which themselves is quite warm.
Do you stand up when you cast from home?
I used to. However...
Age got to you.
Not quite. The reason why I don't stand is because when I moved, I had to move my PC to a different part of my desk / the room than where it was set up when I was living in the last place I was at. And unfortunately, my PC does not have the same space to be close by, and because of that, the cables aren't long enough. So whenever I try to make my desk become a standing desk, which it is designed to do, it usually yanks a couple of the cables out of the monitors, and I just have not gotten around to getting longer cables. That's literally the only thing.
So ultimately,
it's just laziness.
I was going to say, the story still boils down to laziness. Just in a different form of attack here. We have them not quite going for the snappy take on engagements. They're still unable to force the players off the top floor as long as these outlines aren't lying to me. Yep, that is still a DZ player. Playing around the Vigil with Pamber. just causing some attention here. I'm not going to say problems directly. They have to go get rid of him because you cannot just leave an answered route round because they will just route their way round towards the back line of your attack. Surf is the one that's stepping up for the challenge, but alone they can't really do much. The calls are still coming out, more flashes. There has to be something on the end of this utility, otherwise you're just kind of throwing gadgetry into the air and you may as well just put it in the bin at this point instead of the player that should be there as well. A minute left and eyes towards the site itself, but none of the DarkZero players feel like they've been forced out of position yet.
No, and there go the logic bombs onto these DZ players as well. First confrontation will be Rexon staring longingly into the eyes of NJR, just as we did in the player cams. Ambi dies at the hands of Bolo. Bolo has been dropped, so it is a trade for trade as the time goes on. Some damage being done to NJR as Canadian gets moved out of that position. Rexon finishes off Bolo, so now it's a 4v4. Final 30 seconds, and it's SQ knocking at the door of this bomb site. One toxic canister goes down in front of Rexon. He has no choice but to back up, and Canadian will charge on in to deal with the clash. Will SQ come out ahead, or does TZ go up 2-0?
I mean, at this point, I'm waiting for the close down against the back end of the players. They're looking to try and get the plant tucked in on the opposite side there. Surf is watching for that rotate, but it's a double down on the site and the kid itself. With bricks are being found, Surf have to take the drop on the hatch. They're going for the clash play, but the shotgun of Nafe is the actual end result of that. DZ, again, for me, they didn't really feel like they were truly tested on that hold. You could see Soniqs were trying to piece together an idea, but unfortunately it wasn't a very good one.
It's 2 rounds in now for Soniqs, where they have struggled here on Chalet. Chalet's got a decent play rate here in North America. 62 rounds have been played through stage 2. And it is decidedly defender favored, 57% to 43%, and that number will actually get better now that DarkZero has won 2 of their defender sides. DZ will ride this out. I mean, a 3-3 half for Soniqs is a win at this point. They haven't gotten a single round yet. DarkZero are marching their way towards their own expectations. Here's the problem. SQ have 3 kills through 2 rounds. Nafe has more than that. Kobe has 1 less than that. Bolo 1 less. Pambazoo 1 less. The same struggles that we saw from Soniqs on Cafe. Players not showing up. Grixer, very slow start. Canadian, dreadfully bad start. Rexon, all right start. Ambi, okay. Surf, he was doing fine. Surf has been consistently the better player so far, but Ambi can obviously pick it up. And if Ambi starts doing well over the next couple rounds, then Ambi will obviously take that crown away. But Soniqs are wilting in these engagements, and I don't think anybody is surprised by this. DarkZero have so many weapons on their board. Every single player on the team, and that includes Nafe, by the way, who's 4-0 after he's had some bad games over the last 24 to 36 hours. Everybody on DarkZero is known for their mechanical aim. They've been known for their skills. Pambazoo and NJR are an amazing 1-2 punch that DZ used to win a major back in Charlotte 2 years ago. There was commentary that Canadian as an IGL was holding them back in ways that he wasn't at the beginning, and Nafe seems to be getting pretty good value out of them. Canadian has obviously given more life to some of these Soniqs players, but not in this particular matchup, not yet. And Canadian's issues with getting kills, well, that's been another story that we can dig into later on. But 1 minute into the 3rd round, and DarkZero are looking for a perfect rotation.
Kobe was almost knocked off the board. 6 health and a dream is what'll keep him going for now, but if he can get the drop on a fight, and again, if he can get his gadget deployed, then he can still sort of have that. I was going to say 3 in pocket, but he throws one out almost instantly. They're going to try and delay and delay and delay. As I said, what played DarkZero really well before was Soniqs just couldn't find a way to shift them. Same as on the first side, and here with the Tubarao and the tucked round claw, they can probably delay and delay and delay. I was waiting for the catch on the freeze there, and as soon as this one goes, it will probably immediately pop off. It had been there for a while. Bolo could preamble it and pre-place it, but when you're thinking about the wall underneath, it's probably where you want to actually use the end of that gadget. They got the side of it too, and I think from the pick-off angle on the side of Piano, they were able to remove some of the X-Kairos. They're just fading out the gadgets. There's the play below. There's the attempted drop to get anything on the back end of this. The C4 wants to go over the top, and so does Bolo. Gets rid of Grixer. The wall will fall. This puts NJR in a very sticky situation behind the dining table. He has to try and find his route out, and he does, because otherwise he probably would have had his head taken off in a second.
NJR now behind this bomb chassis, waiting for one member of SQ to wander in without having it droned out. Canadian on Kali. Let's see how this one goes.
He says with a laugh.
How does he do? Walking in. Ambi, the very first pick. Canadian slaughtered by Pamazoo. Completely lost. Looking the wrong way. A swing from above as Ambi and NJR trade out kills. Right now, numbers favoring DarkZero. They are 1 kill over what we see from SQ. But Rexon has the read on it. He's found an opening, and he will go for the plant with Ambi watching, but Bolo still has the spot above. Ambi, tucked in the corner, will get the diffuser, and it will be rushed upon by Nafe, who picks up yet another kill. Obviously, I don't want to rag on Canadian here, but that was really not a great play from the Kali, and Soniqs are in a bit of a rough spot at the moment. DZ fully in control of this matchup, and it would appear that Soniqs, after losing 3 rounds to start this map, will call their timeout.
It just feels like it's low energy here from Soniqs, and I said it when we were quite deep and heading into OT on the previous map, that these are very aggressive maps. It's a very quick selection here, especially towards the end of Border. It just sort of was an upwards trajectory of pace and application and expectation of what you're going to be able to do on your attack. And yeah, all right, this map might be technically defender-sided, but it is still a map that plays well for good attacking teams. And Soniqs, as I said at the start of this day, statistically were the best attacking team of this region. Across it, they had more than 50% going into their favor, and you wouldn't believe it from the rounds that you've seen here. It just feels like they're missing that connection. Time to talk, time to slow things down. Go, look, where are we reassessing? Ooh, spicy.
I mean, I think it was really Bolo above that was the big issue, and that's what drew out the question mark, by the way, from Panvazoo. Is I really do appreciate that we're starting to see some typing in the chat. It's obviously that DarkZero is feeling really good. SQ got their fingers a-flying on Cafe, and if you can get under the skin of your opponents, then boy, oh boy, why not? That very first matchup that we saw between these two teams, with Grixer being the hero tucked away, looking inside of Barbecue on Skyscraper to win it for SQ, was really one of the more memorable matches in the NA League so far this stage. I think a lot of people, as they clowned on DarkZero, really did understand, maybe in private if they didn't want to admit it publicly, that any rematch would likely not go that way. Soniqs have been a mighty fine team, but DZ has just looked slightly like a cut above. And with the way that they're playing today, despite the scare they had yesterday in their matchup, DarkZero, yeah, they almost dropped the very first map, but admittedly it wasn't their map, so it wouldn't have been the end of the world if they'd lost it. Here on Chalet, this is what we come to expect, and if a 4-2 scoreline is what you need to claim victory in the first half, DarkZero is almost there already.
One gadget removed there. The mirror window, that was always plan A. That they could get that is huge, and it puts a lot of pressure onto the Rafters player. Now it can be closed down here from the swing of the jungle window, and pressure on towards the top of blue stairs as well. You're just isolating that player, surrounding them, and this is kind of the energy I wanted to see from the side of Soniqs, that directed drive towards it. Last time I had questions when the Blitz just sort of hopped in the window with the kit and didn't go for the plant, instead kept going and going and going, even with the vertical, didn't juggle around utility. Here I'm hoping that we get a lot more of that vertical control early on. It seems like the whole team is focused on this goal, focused on Bolo, on potentially Kobe as well on the swing of the stair set. This, though, they haven't been forced as of yet. There's still a lot of time to work with. The preparation on the gadgets, 3, 2, 1 and ready to go. But they're caught by the Wamai discs, playing against the window as best they can. Pamba's able to stop Grixer, gets the first on the approach, and Bolo could go for the hop if he wants as Canadian. Hits the backside of the site itself, or the attempted hold even. Gets the drop on towards the bedroom. Now, with the second follow-up body of Bolo caught out on his rotate, it's a 4 versus 3, and they slow down. Again, they go to reassess. I say as Canadian starts to eye up the stairs themselves. I'm hoping he doesn't just throw himself in again. Nafe, though, on the roam, on the lurk. are they able to strike in time?
It's the real question, isn't it? This round has moved on quite quickly with Bamazoo and Bolo gone. DarkZero now trails, and they've lost very important parts of this team. NGR with a single kill, Kobe with 2 kills. Nafe yet to die through all 3 of these rounds. He's going to gamble it against Ambi and take an awful lot of damage, but still get the pick, and it will equalize. Nafe, as leaders do, leading by example, and now Rexon will have to deal with him. Very limited HP, 2 quick kills leave NJR as a man alone on an island. Right now, sitting inside a back bar, there's a bulletproof camera watching Canadian as he asserts himself inside of games. They know he's in back bar, and it'll be a joint effort between Canadian and Surf, with Surf getting the final kill. DZ, drop 1 round. Soniqs finally on the board.
And, I mean, no argument, obviously, both statistically, but just how they applied themselves on that was so much better. They had their timeout, they had their conversation, they made great use of it, and they show a team that was attacking with a unity. They were all operating on the same goals. They were clearing the positions, clearing the players, and then moving on. Obviously, Nafe was a bit of a surprise around the back, but how they reacted to it was, okay, well, we still have a bit of our flank watch. We still have a single player up there, and we have a blitz. We know that we have the man advantage currently on the side, or at least it's an even fight. Let's keep going. Let's keep rolling, and then just have that as the watch. And that's the joy that you get when you've been able to pull these single double player positions out already. DarkZero, shaken, not stirred really, being able to get themselves 3 if they can still obviously get the 4-2 defensive split. They'll be happy with that. I still think Soniqs need to keep stepping in here. The clash is ready to try and be a problem against Canadian on the blitz. Is Canadian on the blitz a new thing? I've seen it a lot today, more than I think I've seen it in years of casting him.
He really liked Monty when he was on DarkZero an awful lot, and that's when Monty was played so reliably. But now with Monty being basically a permaban, you see all of these players now having to use the shields. And I'm not sure if you've kept up with any of the Twitter dialogue. I got linked it, which is the reason why I see it. I really do not use Twitter much these days at all, but I still think it's a valuable resource to see how pros talk about the meta and the state of the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, basically everybody said you need somebody to play shields, whether it be the Monty if he's unbanned, which is unlikely, a blitz as the follow-up, even possibly a fuse shield, and then Clash also seeing a pretty healthy pick rate on defense. Shields are just very strong right now. That's just really what it boils down to. And I mean, if you can be a good shield player, you're going to provide a tremendous amount of value for your team.
I think the way I found of explaining it over on the couple of days I've done in the other regions is it used to be back in the day you would have great shield players and they were very rare and you would know them by name. You'd know Pengu, you'd know Anaton, you'd know Hungry, you'd know these players that can operate it, and in this case Forest, and then Shield's got the buff, and now those average players are great shield players. The bar just got lowered, and there's still technically better ones, but you don't need to be the best in the world now to be the known force and factor on it, and that's just where that bar got shifted to and why the bans have become so metric. It's a whole play style. At the same time, Kobe knocked out of the round. The first loss here, this still driven focus of Soniqs on towards these loose players, get them locked out with the Deimos supporting that ethos. Bolo isn't too far away. They could try and drop down West Main stairs here. They could push up if they really want to risk it, but with the Deimos, with the chance of being caught, they're on the list of possibilities, and you wouldn't expect the 1-speed Roma to be them, but look at Canadian breaking it down. Yeah, not taking chances here.
Not at all. It's a hard gun to control for Bolo, but a desperate attempt to do some serious damage. Pamazoo got Surf. Pamazoo has been down for his trouble. As Bolo still holds from above, Pamazoo will crawl to safety, and the feet of the Blitz are spotted by Nafe, who now needs to retreat. He softened up Canadian, but not enough damage to really make an impact. Ambi with 2 very fast kills, and Canadian rushes in, pulverizing Nafe. NJR is the last one standing, and Grixer will eliminate him. And just like that, the 2 rounds that Soniqs needed have been found.
Good use of the Blitz. Good use of the driving through. Again, I love that they're just more direct on their approaches. They're not trying to go for these sort of more spread out takes. They're not trusting that they can win those sneaky engagements, those plays with the sort of nook on the sneaking up the stairs. The plays with the Dockerby on the sort of attempt to close down in these 1 versus 1 engagements. No, let's stop mussing, let's stop fussing, get some drones in, get 4 bodies against 2, 5 against 3, maybe even just all of us hunting down a single player. Okay, cool, we've done that within a minute. We can now do this. And those goals are so much more attainable than trying to rush things in, and it's changed the face of this game. It's got them from what was a pretty abysmal 0-3 to pretty much a confirmed even half at this point. If they can keep this going, we go down towards the bar, the games room,
5 seconds remaining.
for a quick sneaky look at pool/snooker.
Attackers are heading out.
Is it pool? Is it snooker? I don't know.
I mean, it's in France. Snooker is British, right? I mean, does it extend much beyond Britain?
I think anyone, it's like American football. Anyone can play it, but it doesn't mean everybody enjoys it or does it.
The only time I have ever seen snooker tables in all my life in Canada is at the Royal Canadian Legion, which obviously has ties to Britain, of course, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, those legions are also like from World War II time, so those snooker
that
tables have been
old?
in there for 80 years.
Oh.
I'm not that old.
Oh, I thought you were in World War II.
You're actually older than me, which is funny because everybody always makes jokes about how old I am, and I guess you just look so youthful that you escape
do.
it, but you are actually older than me.
People don't know my age.
Isn't it on
It
Wikipedia?
is. I have I've used Wikipedia to find out how old I am before.
People don't know. There's a lot to unpack with that one. 1 minute into the round, and all of this destruction is being done on that bar gaming side of the map. Ambi has used all of his Rotero drones at this point. There's an adrenal surge to top everybody off on the Soniqs. That might herald the start of this push, admittedly, with half of the round still to go.
They have great eyes and the horror of drones on chalets. They can be buried in all the plants, on all the boards across the top, and at this point, you can see DZ have not given Soniqs one of those loose bodies, and they've started to spread out. Now they've said, we're going to play close. Okay, now we're over here on the far side. The Canadian having to cut their way up the stairs instead of pushing on the side as they did before, but Bolo gets one, and Kobe gets Canadian whilst blind. Nave's able to find some cement on the end of it, and it was a good idea from Soniqs, but it was punished by a little bit of moxie and a little bit of decent play from the side of DZ. They stand tall, leaving Ambi and Grixer in this do or die 2 versus 4 situation. Cover the player with flashes, force them up the stairs, try and do a bit of chasing, but the camera is revealing all at this point, and it's an awkward fight to try and take. So instead, gets killed elsewhere. DZ get themselves the 4-2. And at this point, I'm probably happier than they would have been with how those last couple of rounds went.
That's exactly what DZ needed. So the first round goes just right where we anticipated it would go. SQ got their 2 rounds. That's nice. DZ wins theirs, and now DZ will presumably go onto the harder side. If DZ are unable to win the very first round of this second half, then I suspect that means big trouble to follow. Keep in mind that SQ had to use their timeout at the tail end of round number 3 because they started off the map far behind where they expected. I am frankly stunned that Kobe got that kill, by the way. Canadian had him flash, dead to rights on stairs. Oh my. The first tech pause has hit the server.
No! We've done so well. We complimented this. Now, at least it's at the halfway point of a map. And
We've got a break ready for you.
We'll break.
We are back, and Kobe Lax is
What's he reading? Grover?
best-selling author of Winning.
Oh.
Tim Grover.
Oh, how do you know? Do you have that book?
I just Googled it very quickly.
Oh.
Who is Tim Grover? Tim Grover is a businessman, motivational speaker, personal trainer, and owner of Attack Athletics.
Right.
He is known to be recognized as the trainer of some of the most elite, iconic athletes in the world, including the late Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and Michael Jordan.
Well,
I wonder if that's where Kobe got his name from.
no, I think it's the other way around.
Very on. Oh, Kobe Bryant got his name from Kobe Lax, the player, of course.
Yeah, see, lol, he agrees. They can't hear us.
What is he laughing at?
Just having a
That's
good
what
time.
I want to know.
Maybe there's something funny in the book. I don't know. I haven't read it.
Just really enjoying it, I guess. I don't know.
He's like, good man, we need to play. He's like, oh, damn, okay, cool. Puts his hand down as we get to the halfway. Thank you for sticking with us during that tech pause. It was at the halfway point. The players are back in. We are rolling again. DarkZero won the first map all the way. And here, they got off to a very strong start. 3 rounds. Sonic started to fight back, and then DarkZero got the one just before the turn of the half. That is all that has happened in the game up to this point. Now, I think Soniqs, they worried that they might have cooled off just a little bit because they did definitely start to cook back into the game much better and better. They were pretty lost at the opener of this, and the pressure was on them to try and get their attacks steady across. And here, similar sort of game, they have the air jabs to control the rotation behind them or in front in some cases, just cut off the loose route of these players. Ambi has eyes on the approach and wants to see if he can try and maybe step into it, but he's just drawing as much utility, as much focus, and as much attention as possible. But otherwise, it's seemingly just isolate West Main here. If they can get themselves in, get an air jab tucked just on the rotate of the door at that point in towards dining, well, they'll feel kind of confident now of being able to focus on the West Main breach on towards the trench wall and push in from there.
You mentioned shields being an important part of these teams and why Canadian plays those shield operators. I mean, the low-hanging fruit would have been a joke about his aim. But now he's going to play on the Clash. And I mean, because Troy is at his best when he can see things, visualize the play, and give that information to his teammates. And shields allow him to do that. Unfortunately for Rexon, he dies. He was playing on that mirror window maybe a bit too aggressively, and a joint effort from multiple DZ players now resulted in the very first death for Soniqs. Pambazu dies shortly thereafter to Ambi, who's roaming on the main floor, and the numbers are back to even with 45 seconds left.
I like that Surf didn't throw themselves back towards the site. You only need one to be that danger man at this point as well. He can draw some attention. He can maybe try and fight back against the hatch. They've the ones that have to try and secure the plant, and a C4 will secure the kill on the back. The Clash, again, as you called it, Canadian loves to see and say what is going on. And that grenade will force a bit of motion, but Ambi getting Bolo. It's just everybody falling on the altar of trying to push into the site. Grixer is finally caught out. The Clash is still standing. Yeah. And reading all of this as they push and attempt to push past and get the fight. But at that point, when you have the Clash, you have the read, and a Bulletproof was still getting the backup on all that intel. Soniqs, they just kind of expected seemingly the push to come from there, and they said, yeah, you can have that terrain. Doesn't mean you'll have the site, though.
Soniqs getting closer to tying things up, and I mean, there's a scary start with Rexon getting picked off early. DZ will have to find their footing and settle in on this second half. It was that main floor that caused some serious issue. Ambi wasn't alone up there. He failed to see the other player that was with him, but I mean, if you're going to hold that middle floor, then somebody on the attacking side has to deal with it. And nobody bothered to do so, which is why you saw that very linear take from DarkZero fall apart downstairs.
One round separates these two teams, and the first map wasn't traded rounds, it was traded halves. I'm wondering if we're going to get the same thing here and get ourselves into another OT. I think my neighbors are probably wondering the same thing. I'm kind of glad that we had the big, more screamy, shouty match as the first match. And this, yeah, there's stakes, but I think the stakes of get to the major or not probably more of a value to these teams than the bragging rights, the SI points, and the purse difference.
With this being an actual middle floor defense by Soniqs, We'll have to tackle both the top floor and the bottom floor. As you saw how aggressively Soniqs like to roam in the previous round, this bomb site will be no different. 2 silhouettes. Just sit inside of office. Thought they were going to get a drone read, so I was going to be quiet, but then the drone didn't really do anything, and then we switched around to another operator. Either way, they'll be shaken off of their position very quickly. DZ has assessed that the solarium and bedroom side of this map is good to go. They will take up more map control, as it does push these Soniqs players back farther.
Soniqs aren't, again, you know, stepping in to contest these areas, whether it's part of the plan of saying, you can have it. Ambi's in this strike position here, tucked. It's, you know, not the most common, but also not the most rare. It's going to be something that they'll probably expect, and if it works, it'll only work once. There's Surf put out in the meantime. Bolo gets the opener, and there's Ambi striking back and then slips instantly out of it. As I said, we'll probably get the 1 usage. I would be surprised if it gets 2. As the Candelas roll over, here's the first fight actually coming together. Ambi with the backed up shield and Rexon with the backed up player gets the kill. They're rolling out the blinds as much as they can. They're driving all the way in, get the execute on towards Ambi, try and keep rocking and rolling their way on towards. Catch at the top of blue stairs, revealed on the camera, hits the drop. Did they see where that loose player went? Back inside the site, drifting in towards the coat room. And it's Bolo to check him out of it. Rexon gone 40 seconds. They have some vertical control, but they don't really have a lot of utility left to try and help them drive in this 3 versus 2. They've got 1 frag grenade, 3 flashes. It's going to have to be very direct behind what is now a call being put together. But Canadian wins out the first. Pamba's looking to try and follow them through. They have them not officially dead to rights, but stuck in a corner. Are they going to try and fight their way out? They are. Whoa. It's not going to go very well. Pamba gets the drop. There is at least a final player to find, and it's Grixer doing their best to hold on. 8 seconds, tucked round the corner. You've just got to take the engagement. The blind is on yourself. NJR still finds it. That was almost tragic, though.
Show us the typing. Show us the typing. I want to see what he's saying.
Easy.
I want to see them.
Easy hooks us
I want
up.
to see what he's done.
Where is she?
Where are they?
Ave Maria. It's you and me in that scene at the end of Batman. Ave Maria.
I am astonished that NJR was able to win that.
Yeah, he made it harder for himself.
It's winning on hard mode. NJR typed "you're shaking," by the way.
That's
just in case anybody's curious. We have another technical pause. I don't know what this issue is. We are actually frozen on Chalet, which I think is very apropos.
Can you ski?
I mean, I could attempt it. I was learning snowboarding, but I feel like some of those skills are transferable, but not all of them.
Say the word radical.
Rad.
Yeah, you were a surfer? A snowboarder?
No, I don't know if you know this, but I live on a lake, not an ocean.
You can surf on a lake?
I mean, there's actually quite a large surfing community on Lake Ontario, but I mean, it doesn't hold a candle to what you see in the ocean.
Well, no, because it would go out.
Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that.
Can't explain it. I said we weren't going to get too many shaft rounds, and then that plays out. You know, again, very, very easy for me to sit there and say what the right and the wrong decision is, because I can see everything. I can see what they're watching and waiting for, and they're playing off of it. Canadians swinging out the door of the mudroom and trying to find a fight and cause some damage. They were probably concerned that they were going to get closed down on, but there was about 10 seconds left. If they had sort of tucked into a corner, lay down, waited for the contact to be made and swing on contact on the door when they went for the site itself or went for them, they forced 5 seconds out of that time. 5 seconds was the difference of that round being win or loss. And again, it's very easy for me to say because I knew the positions of the players, but it shows you the thin margins these rounds are sort of hinging on at this point.
Still waiting to hear why we are currently in the midst of a tech pause. We will relay you when we have the information.
Probably Carter's fault. Probably Lynx.
Apparently it was a player DC.
Sounds like Lynx.
Just wanted to say to everybody watching that we feel your frustration with the tech pauses.
Is that your radio voice?
No, that's my I'm tired of tech pauses voice.
Oh, what's your radio voice? You have one.
I thought it was this.
That's true. I was working with Manic, Rob. I said, do you have a radio voice? He went, nah, mate.
Only had the opportunity to work with him and meet him once, and I gotta say, very, very awesome man. Very good at his job. He's a glue guy. This is actually this is a phrase that's actually come up a few times. I don't know if you ever heard this.
I have never heard someone described as a glue guy positively.
No, I mean, this is actually maybe this is a North American term here, but glue guy usually represents somebody who they're not the best at what they do. They're very good at what they do, but it's like the role that they play, as we are now back into the match, is that they just kind of keep everybody together, and you are the person that people refer to, or you're the person that people go to when you have issues. You are the person who raises people's spirits. You make everybody feel better. You make everybody better at their jobs, and he is a glue guy. And I will say that Green Room vibes differed based on which talent go to certain events.
That's true.
In Manchester, there was way too many British people.
I had heard this.
You were in Manchester.
Yeah, that's why I heard it.
You're also British.
Idiot.
It's very hurtful. You know that I take these things very seriously.
Yeah, I know. I know you write it on your mirror. That's why I say these things.
It's a joke, of course, about the Brits. But no, in Brazil, I got to say, it was nice to have the Aussies there, to have Guz and Soniqs at a live event, to see them again. It's the first time since Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. And then obviously meeting Manic was very nice.
Yeah.
And he's a glue guy, you know. He's tremendously good at his job. He's a great host and a nice person, but he made the Green Room better. And I think he made all the people that were working feel a lot better. And you need glue guys and glue gals too. I mean, you know, glue they thems.
I actively try and make Green Rooms worse.
You do. You are the opposite of glue. You are like a poison gal.
That's what they call me. Poison gal.
Everything that a glue guy does well, I do the opposite of that.
I work to undo it.
We are mortal. The glue guy and me are mortal enemies.
They'll be like, we're having a great time in here. And I'll be like, are we? Okay.
This has been a round that not much has happened.
No.
I like that Canadian is on Ella. Canadian's been swapping around on these operators and really hasn't been finding a ton of success through much of today's matches. There goes the deployable shield and the drone. Womp womp. As the E1D will go out, Lion, not an operator we've seen an awful lot of. Dokkaebi has taken that place along with Deimos. And now Albi Wamai harassed in that corner. And, well, NJR's just not fast enough. He had an opportunity to do some more damage. There you go. The fire will spread. Another E1D will go. Nade goes in as well. Surf evading this. Look at all the utility being used. And DarkZero not finding anything for it.
Surf's trying to step back in. He pre-fired just in case something came around, and it's a wise choice because although there's been a lot of the threats and the damage done obviously to the Wamai, they haven't removed the structure, but they tried to swing in, and that allows Soniqs to still play in that space, to still be a response in the small box. They push them off. Naif is stuck, watching, waiting on the double window with an attempt of NJR to get the pinch on a single player, and well, they get gifted it, and there's Naif suddenly putting us into the 3 versus 2 as Ambi's able to at least stem the flow, but getting the pickup, 20 seconds. They've got to get this, they have the cover, otherwise they are alone. Ambi and Grixer are going to see if they can try and step in either side. They have the pings on the play, they know exactly what's going on, and now we talk about who's going to give them the fight. It's NJR that steps through, looks for the first engagement, can't get it sharp enough, putting Naif in a 1 versus 1, but he just cannot get the 4-3 to his name. And Grixer holds on for Soniqs.
Really coming down to the wire there, and Soniqs having to work for every single one of these rounds. It will not be a cakewalk for them. But just as we saw in map number 1, DZ kept it very close. They were in the driver's seat for most of the matchup. Soniqs came a couple kills away from winning that very first map. It was their map, of course, so you expect them to win. They didn't get it done. They failed on those expectations. Now here it's DarkZero, who looked like they were going to walk away with this one very quickly. A 3-0 start on Chalet before dropping a couple rounds and then it tightening up as we expected. Now there's 1 round difference between these two teams. Sonic standing tall, standing strong, and here you go. Nave had a huge round. Nave in particular has been having a very good Chalet.
It's something where, and I don't know if this is just me sort of attributing British players together, but it's always been a good map from players out of the region. You know, sort of go back all the way to the days where you had Nath playing alongside Doki, playing alongside Citizen, and those sort of players etched a mark on this map. The roam play that they would do in metas gone by and the energy that they would bring to it, Nath was always one of those sort of creative minds behind it as well. And I don't know, there's something about this map that plays really, really well with their specific European style of siege. Ambi gets bowler. Gets the opener. Puts a bit of a
very early pick, by the way.
Yeah, very, very early. And onto the ace as well. If you're looking at the sort of site selection, out of any of them, this is probably the worst. Still have the Thermite, they have the Kali. They shouldn't have the biggest problem, but now you're looking at the limitations on, say, the hatches. You don't have the pocket breaches. You've got to play with only 2 of these openers, and if you need to get the plant, usually it's going to be Snowmobile, and usually it's going to be Trench on the opposite side, which leaves a lot more cost and a little bit more protection in that swing connection on the hatch itself. But Kobe hasn't quite been able to get his teeth in towards the killing game since the rehost, and anywhere near as much as he was on the first map is waiting for this fight with the Clash, who's Canadian, not quite showing their face yet.
You know, there's a Kali on the board. They can hear it. NJR's now found an opportunity to open up that wine wall and forces Rexon off of that position. Rexon will survive in the same spot that he died previously when he was on that Mira. Very different setup this time. Instead of tempting the attackers with a soft wall, you fully reinforced it and made this DZ team commit to proper utility work. This Kali's still got 2 of those lances left. They need to figure out where that last Electroclaw has gone. Did they find it? Yes, they did. And Canadian will have his back turned. As there goes the exothermic charge, he hears it and will moonwalk away. Final minute, and there goes the deployable shield as well. Nave being so effective right now on this Kali, and the plant is going down. Gas not doing any damage whatsoever. There's an air jab to knock over Grixer. Soniqs wanted this comeback to happen. They've now lost 1 player. The smoke, not the most devastating of margins. The coverage from DZ will need to be even better. As Ambi, missing out on the opportunity, originally catches NJR looking in the wrong way. Rexon on the diffuser, and the last 2 players from DZ will storm down in the same direction. Rexon, though, will get the diffuser as they waste time, and Soniqs tie things up.
Couple of woos there from Canadian. You can see the energy coming together. They've tied things up. They're obviously a map down at this point, but they've got themselves round after round back into this game. And we have a timeout.
Oh, I almost thought it was a tech pause and I was literally going to lose my mind. Glad it's a timeout. DZ have fallen behind, and Soniqs just as competitive in this matchup as we anticipated. The first map needed all 15 rounds to settle it. I am starting to get the feeling that we are going to go into overtime yet again. With it being a 5-5 scoreline, Emmy, no matter what happens, we will need all 12 rounds. So this will not be a quick affair. Due to the pacing of these rounds and numerous tech issues, despite the fact that we started our first map in our first match almost 5 hours ago, we have only completed 3 maps at this point, one of which was a 7-2. It was a relatively quick one. Obviously, there were some issues with tech pauses, and it kind of dragged it out a bit, but We are, as far as I'm aware, we're just a tiny bit behind schedule, even though that first series went to 2 maps instead of the 3. And it could end up being a very long night, or for you, morning, depending on what happens over these next 2 rounds. DarkZero do obviously have an opportunity to close this out in 2 maps. And if they do, first place overall in NA will be theirs. They will lock it in, and with it get the SI points that they need. Soniqs, because of their results through the first half of the year, are desperate to win this matchup for them to get those SI points and still be in competition for the biggest event of the year, which will be taking place, presumably, but I guess February of next year, as it typically always is. Very critical round for both of these teams. A bar and gaming defense for Soniqs. The Frost will likely be set up top as you see Rexon prepping. He's actually looking for a spawn peek with the ACOG, and well, he misses it. All of his Frost mats have been placed, and I don't know about you, but it didn't look like all of them went upstairs in library.
I guess those are the surprises that we get to work out along the way. And also, there's one. Surprise ruined. Game's done. Anime cat girl skin. Obviously.
Yuck! Are you an anime enjoyer?
No.
God bless.
You and I are probably not the target audience. If anyone from the talent team was going to be like A24 enjoyers, I think people would rightly guess it's us, and rightly guess that maybe with this lineup there might be a bit of early pressure on towards the site. Pamba, the Nook, cut their way in via the bar to see if anybody's serving, but has actually been surprised by the lack of any presence. They're on cam, they rotate round, and they almost give the game away there, but Grixer gets off and gets dropped. Pamba now has full site control, but he's worried about someone trying to find the fight back in on the door, and it's Canadian.
What is he really running?
A couple more. Brexit and Surf and Ambi, and I mean, what was almost a very powerful snap onto the site turns in to a collapse across it.
SQ on map point, by the way. If that single round on Cafe had gone the other direction, then it would be SQ looking at a 2-0 in this series. Almost certainly looking like a third map will happen. Let's get a nice look of all the players. Do you think they have to remember to make their beds before they turn on their cameras?
I think, yeah, probably. I mean, there's been funny, questionable things that we've seen in the back of people's cameras over the years that we haven't commented on because they obviously haven't sorted their life out on camera. We're not their parents. If they want to be messy, they're allowed. I don't care. It's 4 in the morning. And this looks like I might be going until 5 in the morning. Soniqs, they're 1 round away from getting this pushed over the edge. DarkZero, 1 round away from putting us into our second OT in this series, but with the chance of keeping it in only 2 maps. Obviously, the one we'll go to after this, if it does fall to it, is Border. I'm curious to see if we get there, just how much energy is left in the canisters of these 2 teams. It's been tooth and nail, not, as I said a couple of times, traded rounds, but traded halves, and it's just been big responses of stepping back up, stepping up to meet your opponents rather than dropping off past their level. And that's everything you kind of want from a grudge match in Siege, right? Is that they keep hitting new heights. And that's how it's felt generally throughout this series.
There's been a lot of storylines in North America. Los performing as poorly as they did. The prospect of Luminosity doing well with their roster being what it is. OXG falling out of orbit. Wildcards improvements. Cloud9 Beast Coast taking a step back. Obviously, Soniqs and DZ are in their own little loop. There's been a lot, and there's been a lot for us to talk about it. And I know the desk has had a lot of fun with it. Jacob has done a very good job of narrating and weaving these storylines together, with Fox and Laxing providing the analysis that we need from former pros. there aren't a lot of former pros that work on this show. And NA obviously lost one with Pengu departing to go and cast with Dev Marta over in EU and various APAC regions. So having two people be able to contextualize the story has been great. And a lot of these matches have also been quite exciting. Let's just focus on that as well. A lot of bright spots to look at in this stage. The big one right now is this budding rivalry between DarkZero and Soniqs. There goes Nafe. Rexon traded out immediately. DZ keeping this very close. 1 minute. 1 minute in this round. Soniqs, if they can find these 4 kills, we go over to Border to decide this series and decide who finishes first in NA.
Ambi's gone down in the meantime. They found themselves only firing back with 3 in servers in maybe the most dangerous position of all. But do they know? Yes, is the clear-cut answer there as Kobe starts the roll through. They're going to go for the plant. They're finally able to get the player up on the back end of it, but it leaves Grixer fighting alone for his life. He's on the echo, and he does stop the plant. He's looking for the second. They're pre-firing the wrong thing, so he'll get a free second deny here. You're kind of waiting for them to activate onto it, but they'll just cement the third one. There's the reveal from the Deimos where the player is, and the fight on the door itself as Bolo gets Ambi from below a little bit too late to stop the plant, and that leaves Canadian here. DarkZero look like they've sent us, and they have, into our second OT of the series. What's he typing?
Release the tapes. Release the tapes.
What's he typing?
Release the tapes.
The players are not typing anything. Please do not look. There is no war in Ba Sing Se.
We have a man on the inside. His name is Stefan.
And he loves the drama. Stefan loves the gossip.
Why not? You know what I will say about Stefan? He is a professional hater.
Yeah.
Easy is a professional hater.
We were talking about the glue of...
He's also the anti-glue guy.
Yeah, but because of that, he becomes the glue. Because you're like, on a hard day, you're like, how could it, you know, I could have it worse when you talk to Easy. You're like, maybe I don't have it so bad.
10 seconds to go.
I'm just saying this all because I know Stefan hears every single word.
5 seconds left.
The observers do hear us, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I like
2
that.
OTs in a row, though, by the way. Emmy, this has been as close as we expect between these teams. If you look at the playoffs so far, Soniqs and Wildcard did not go into overtime at all in their very first matchup, despite all 3 maps being played. Same for C9, BC, and M80. They were all won in regulation. You look at Soniqs versus Space Station, in regulation. You look at DarkZero versus M80, all won in regulation. What about Space Station and M80? They had a single OT go the full distance, and that was Bank. Both of these maps have now gone into overtime. It remains to be seen if all 15 rounds will be needed. One thing is for certain. This match, which was hyped up greatly as a grudge match between these two teams, with all the history between the players and the leaders on this team as well, well, it's lived up to the billing because we went all the way in map number 1, and there is a very real possibility we do it in number 2. If Soniqs prevail in OT, then we have Border as the decider, and that too could go all the way. A very spirited contest, and again, this is excellent for the rivalry.
Sets up the story, sets up the scene, and they're setting up their attack, which has always been the weaker part of both these teams on this map, struggling to get the full sort of breakaway. Soniqs were able to pull a take onto Bar Gaming before. It was the first round they got in the entirety of the map, but it's such a long time ago, especially with the tech pause that we unfortunately had in the middle and the midst. Nafe, he's prepped up and executed instantly. Ambi steps and knocks the map, but Pamba gets a quick response inside the line of prep. There's Ambi driving and diving for that player behind the shield itself. They're able to absolutely uproot. That's again just another shocking run in that's unanswered past the bar, but Pamba vertically is causing some dramas. Now they don't have the kit. They're not going to go for the plant. They're not going to go for the operation at this point because, well, as proven by Pamba, they do not have the control above. Pamba gets his third, gets Rexon, gets the team still fighting 11-4 since the rehost, and 12-4 Ambi. The pressure's on. He needs to be the answer right now. You see where that kid is directly underneath Pamba. With 30 seconds, they have to make the choice. Do we try and push up? Do we try and take the fight? Do we trust that we can grab it and move on? There's an altercation on those stairs that they don't seem fully aware of. And there's the grab of the kit. There's the slow roll, the caution paid. There's a couple of positions that are safe. That is not one of them. So the ping goes out just in on the door. They can watch this from some of the locations. There's 8 seconds. You can see the Legions going for the hunt. They find it perfectly. And with that locked out, DarkZero, but mainly Pamba, keeps that round in their favor. 1 round separates DarkZero from first place.
The head tilt from Ambi told the whole story there when with 3 seconds left, it was him against 3 players from DZ. Understanding that the round was effectively over, and it might be a sign of the times for Soniqs, who now through 2 maps have kept things awfully close, but you have to be able to close out these games. I struggle.
I can tell.
I struggle because this has always been an issue for Troy's teams. Think back to those old EG squads. How they struggled to close out matches, how they would come out of nowhere, they would be great, and then they would have some issues maintaining that level of mental resiliency. The same thing, in turn, happened on Space Station for a while. But it seems like they got the proverbial monkey off of their proverbial backs when they won the US Nationals, and then 2 months later ended up winning SI in 2020. This was a team that was formidable for a number of reasons. They had a great supporting cast. That was also when Rampy and Fultz were capable of killing every single thing that crossed their path. With DZ, it took a while for the system to gel with Troy at the reins, and even they had some serious struggles about looking really good but disappearing in the tough matches. But then all hope was there, and all worry was gone when they won the Charlotte Major. There is no denying Troy's ability to lead these teams. There is no denying that he is capable of willing the unwilling into a winning position. But he is still very new on this Soniqs team. They have outperformed expectations, and this has been one of the best starts to a new team for Canadian that we have seen. But there will always be setbacks. Even if Soniqs fail to win this match, not all hope is lost. They're still going to be in Montreal, and that will be the best opportunity for them to get game day reps against international competition. The bigger issue is that they lose out on those SI points, and right now, Soniqs making SI is far from certain.
DarkZero making an attack stick is also just as uncertain as Ambi. Gets the head of Nafe as the opener, and Bolo, I was going to say, misses out on the engagement. Ambi wanted to double dip, but when they suffered the first bit of damage, and as Pamba gets the last bit, they realized maybe they overexerted themselves. They still wasted some time, wasted a Dockerby as well. Nafe is gone. If your IGL's in that position of just watching cams, it's not the end of the world, but also there's still this fight for control over West Main. Think about how many times we've seen it boil down on these Soniqs defenses to just holding the site itself. It's a different story, and so far, Pamba, apparently if you put him on a floor above people, he'll just keep getting killed. Fair enough. Maybe this extended hold that Soniqs have tried this time round has not netted results. They pull back towards the site. Mira did not die that far away. Grixer has the watch, but as Canadian steps in, it's a 4 versus 3. They've obviously lost the Dockerby, but they still have the chance of doing the hard breach. There's a minute. It's plenty of time to get this work done on the site as they start to tear it up. But is the clash going to become a boon or a detriment as this gets closer to the wire?
I mean, shields are always better when you've got a strong team around you, and Grixer and Rexon, 2 of the OGs from Soniqs, are great, but the numbers favor DarkZero, which means that Canadian's application with that shield will be slightly weakened as they are outnumbered quite so heavily. Down goes Bolos. The numbers will equalize. The shield will be spotted by NJR as it's up to him, Pambazoo, and Kobilax. Pambazoo has 14 kills, by the way, since coming back from our last rehost. Rexton slaughtering NJR from that gaping maw that is none other than the opening breach. Last one alive is Pambazoo. Hold on a second. 4 kills to his name. He's got 5 seconds to find Grixer and get the diffuser down. Grixer tucked away over in wine. Pambazoo just won't get there in time. And based on the clock, Soniqs win it for the second map in a row. We have all 15 rounds.
I mean, could not have been closer for Pambazoo there as well. Obviously, getting the drop on towards the air jab clash, great. Then throwing the flash and leaning into it to get the kill in blue, amazing. But just 5 steps away from that final kill, that final fight. Soniqs, they took a bit of a risk there. They extended more over the map. They thought if they shook things up, it would work. It didn't, but ultimately did, I guess is the way of putting it. They were on the back foot, and if it wasn't for the heroics of holding it down, the pressure of time was that story there. Again, that is where that sort of hold nets your reward, is in time. And now as we go down, the DarkZero's hold here on towards Kitchen. We've only seen this once so far in this showdown. That was a DarkZero win. Will it be the same here to send us to bed, in my case? Or can Soniqs crack their way through the Deimos, the Dockerby to control the space, control the players, the Blitz with the kit of Canadians, maybe try and drive their way in? That hasn't been their greatest success stories, though.
Kobilax having quite an uneventful second half of this map. It is rare for one player to consistently dominate time in, time out, but I mean, that is what tends to separate the best players in a region from the rest. If you can show up and put up positive numbers every single map, then, well, your value shoots through the roof. Pambazoo tends to be that player for DarkZero. Be very curious to see his lifetime averages, because he's been exceptionally good. It's a nice shrewd play, by the way, from the Kaid of NJR. He was trying to bait out the Brava drone. The Kludge appears, and right as it starts to hack the Electric Claw, he picks it right back up. Still another Kludge in pocket for Grixer. We can get it again, but as long as NJR is not sitting over top of it like a mother hen. Very limited action so far through 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Every single player still alive. The early body takes that happened once or twice throughout this round, throughout this map, have just drifted by the wayside in OT. DarkZero aren't handing these engagements, I say, as Ambi just takes one, hoists the player, and Bolo in the meantime is trying to keep things going for the team, but he's slowly being surrounded and closed down on here. The verticality, he was the big problem when they tried to get this territory and terrain before the Blitz. Pokes their head round the corner, he's doing his best, but remember how this ended. It was with a question mark and a lull as they tried to just plant without the vertical. This time, they aren't making the same mistakes. Soniqs 3 versus 2. They still have the Blitz standing. It's Bolo and NJR to try and get the final piece of this, and Canadian knows exactly where NJR is. They aren't going straight in, they wait. With Grixer getting that, it leaves just Bolo, a 1 versus 3 situation. Looking for the planter. Can't quite get the angle, they're tucked, they're dead. This is map 3.
Nicely done by Soniqs in that final round, isolating those players off-site. And Troy sure is fired up. Soniqs winning DZ's map. We needed 30 rounds so far through these 2 maps, and we are far from done. Border awaits us, as that will be the decider. A single map, one best of 1, to determine whether Soniqs comes out on top or DarkZero can get it done. These two teams, juggernauts so far.
I'm body blocking. I'm body
Listen,
blocking.
I'm
body blocking.
Office first.
I'm
I'm just
body
gonna
blocking.
suicide. I'm just gonna suicide. I'm just gonna suicide.
Blocking.
Plant down, guys. Reset. Plant down. Reset.
Let's go! It's not over. I just knocked over everything on my desk.
Holy shit!
Motherfuckers can't attack for shit.
Go.
Well, it's 2 maps, 30 rounds. Are you entertained? Is this not why you are here? This kind of brawl, revenge, grudge match, siege is what dreams are made of.
Do you think Canadian was body blocking there at the end? I couldn't hear the comm.
I don't know.
I think he was.
Nah, I mean, it really was an intense matchup, and I mean, oh my God, DZ kind of let that one slip away from them.
100%.
Unfortunately, it was just not in their favor. I mean, really good play from Soniqs, and like, I mean, I really, you're right. We're spoiled for a game.
It was round 10. Pamba snuck through with knock and got into the bar, got the kill, and I was like, oh, this is over at this point. And then he just whiffs on the guy coming back into sight, and then it just completely trickled down from there. Whereas had they won that round, then they won the next round, which they would have ended at 7-5, but they just couldn't pass that finish line. Soniqs kept up the tenacity from them. And I mean, even this round from NJR,
Yeah,
that was insane that he ended up getting that kill. But I mean, both these teams just, it's literally a tennis match. It's just a constant back and forth between these rounds. You don't know who's going to win. In some of these situations, it looks like Soniqs or DZ should win the round, but then they end up just edging the back and getting back into the fight, getting back into the round and just closing it out and just pushing it into the next round. I mean, this really has honestly been the most back and forth game so far that I believe that we've seen in the NAL so far.
Yeah, I mean, I really love like the slow pace defenses that we're seeing out of DarkZero. I feel like where they're falling short is unfortunately just their attacks. I guess towards the end,
Even
especially once it got to their overtime. I mean, yeah, the post plants, I agree. I mean, I just think like Soniqs had a really good aggressive style. I mean, there was a lot of times that they were taking the site away from DarkZero, and DarkZero had to rely on their information to, I guess, get back in this game. But it really feels like Soniqs has woken up. Yes, they lost last map only by 1 round, and they won this map by another round. So it's one of those situations where neither team are really doing anything wrong. It's a battle of constant adaptations from both sides. And the map 3, I'm like really excited to watch to see what's the change that it's going to be.
Wow. It's crazy to me that they're tied in kills and tied in EPS.
I mean, it's just like this is the game that everyone
Evenly
wanted
matched.
this to be for the first stage match. So the fact that we get it at the end of the day, end of the stage, end of the playoffs. I mean, again, these are the 2 best teams that we're sending to Montreal, and I couldn't be any more excited. I'm really hoping going into map 3, we can play another 15 rounds, make a total of 45, and just really show each other's teams and how well they've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, you could even see, I mean, the attacks is really where it started to slip through, and Soniqs' defenses was really well prepped. And then once they managed to flip sides or bring it all the way to overtime, I think that's where Soniqs was just able to get that final little edge over, which is finalize that the blitz, bringing that blitz in overtime to get those opening picks, shut down the roam from DarkZero, and I mean, you know, really well played from Soniqs.
Yeah, and you know, obviously the casters brought it up. We brought it up before in the playoffs, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say mental fortitude. I mean, you see the player cams, they look gassed. They look absolutely gassed at the end of this, and this is going the distance.
Everybody was very tired in the cameras. You could see, you know, Rexham was rubbing his eyes, but at the end of that game, we saw everybody explode on Soniqs' side. So you can't even say to this, oh, maybe this game doesn't necessarily matters. It matters to everybody in the server immensely. They all want to be the best. They all want to win, and obviously a little bit of a rivalry is also adding to that fuel. One team has to be the de facto winner, and obviously Border being the next map up that goes between it. I mean, Soniqs so far, their attacks is an attack-sided map. Soniqs, their attacks have been better. We're seeing that early stages of DarkZero on attacks. They're fumbling around, stalling out. The big individual rat plays weren't able to, you know, make anything happen on Chalet. Border is a map that you also really can't get too ratty on. It's really about individual 1v1s all over the map. And as a team, Soniqs is just playing a little bit better so far.
But we talked about those adaptations, and this is going to be a map that we're going to be seeing that pretty heavy. And we've seen a lot of quick takes coming out of Soniqs and DarkZero. We're kind of just beating their way through with the shield and making openings. I mean, same with Soniqs. So I'm expecting a lot of shield play to try to be negated from both ends of, you know, maybe bringing a Legion, maybe just bringing something to thwart off those shield attacks and getting into those power positions. But again, this is going to be coming down to quick adaptations and moving the pieces around the puzzle and getting players in position, out of position, and taking position from the power positions. So again, it is a lot of positions going into this map, and I mean, it's going to be very heavily gunfight oriented, and like you were saying, it's going to be coming down to single-handedly 1v1 engagements that are going to be ending up giving up that power position or gaining that. So again, if I don't know, with my prediction right now, it's I kind of want to switch it, to be completely honest, even with Soniqs coming off of that win.
You can't. You're locked in now.
No, I am glad this ends on border, though. This will be, I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I do expect this to be using every single round that is provided going into this match.
I mean, we might as well. 8-7, 8-7. We might as well.
We're already
another
here.
8-7 map 3.
We're here. We're waiting for it. I mean, you know, I do wonder at times how much of this is becoming like a chess match between Nath and Canadian, where they're just using their players as pieces.
I mean, no,
it feels that way.
Realistically, that's what it is.
That's what it is. From a position of being an IGL, when you play against a team, always whenever we'd play against DarkZero, which was Canadian and that roster, now they're playing against each other, it always is that mental battle, because every single round that you win, you know they're changing, they're adapting, they're changing up their play style to counter what you're going to bring. So each round is a back and forth due to the leading styles of the leading capabilities of both these guys that you see on the screen. I mean, every single round that's won, the other person is trying to fix it. And now on a map like Border, that's where IGLing kind of gets a little bit more complicated, because it's very hectic and it's all about speed and pacing. So DarkZero has been known to do a lot of preset planned rushes, and Border's a map that you can do minimal defaults and find a lot of success on. So it really will be which team has the better attacks, and so far we haven't seen that much good out of DarkZero's attacks, at least on Chalet. So I mean, you know, I predicted them to be able to win this out completely, but you know, I'd agree with you. I would also, in this factor, want to switch it if I could, but I can't.
I mean, how do you think, as we, you know, are looking at this Border? I know you do. You can't trick me. I mean, how do you think DarkZero maybe tightens up on some of the errors that they've been making? Because I feel like they have been making some definite errors. We brought that up, Pambazoo maybe getting out of position round 11, or you look at that plant on round 10 that was really kind of just like ham-fisted. How do you tighten that up when you've been going so deep into this match now, and you really do have the feeling that Canadian knows almost what you're going to do before you do it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that Nath was saying, that, you know, Troy took a little bit of their strat, so he's easy to counter that, have that counterplay. But the nice thing about Border, especially on the attacks, is sure, it does come down to those 1v1 engagements, but it does force a lot more team play and a lot more people to be buddying up with one another as you push through that map and end towards that end game.
Well, viewers at home, you couldn't have asked for more. It's a finale with all the fireworks as we get ready to go to Border for the last time here in the NAL 2024. It is my very great honor to turn you over to two wonderful casters. It is Intero and Fluke.
Thank you very much, Corbeck, and thank you very much to the desk for rightfully hyping up this match for the grudge match it has been. And if you were expecting a quick one that would go the way of the night, you were completely wrong. Admittedly, about a minute, 30 seconds in map 1 and 30 seconds in map 2 could have completely changed the tide of this matchup and made for a 2-0, but that is not to be the case. And with it, the social prediction has tightened an incredible amount. At one point, there was a huge gap between DZ and Soniqs at the start of map number 2. It is now gone. Mental fortitude was something that was discussed by the desk, and I mean, DZ looks quite motivated and very much in there. For the younger players, these long matches, these long best of threes, while they do take their toll. Ambi's played in a couple of them, so has Surf. Kobe Lax is getting his first taste at a tier 1 level of the NAL stage, so I mean, it's a rough go of it. Operator bans are coming in. Soniqs have taken out the Glass, by the way, an operator who's seen quite a lot of picks on this map, but also has been a favorite of DarkZero. Mirror will round out the bans, and Monty and Azami are pretty normal as we go to war for map number 3.
Let's bring it. Let's see a war. Let's give us what we came here for. Although it's a little bit early for some of us. I'm excited to see how the late starts to battle against the others. As they pointed out, you can see the energy dips, the energy changes. You've had a very long series. You couldn't have had a longer series up towards this point. You're looking at a chance where if there was infinite OT, they probably would have just traded rounds for a little bit of time and got themselves in a back and forth with the mental changes it would have. But here, mistakes on border are punished succinctly. You can very quickly find a flaw and turn it into a turned around. There is very little from one corner of this map to the other in surfaces that cannot be shot through. And that is where you're going to introduce these problems. The Glad's gone from the side of Soniqs. It limits some of these plays, some of these approaches. Most notably, if there's one that's driven, it's onto this site when you go for the Archives plant just tucked inside the door. Those smoke plays will not be confirmed, but what I'm curious to see is the combination of the Deimos and how this map likes to play with its soft floors. In the right hand, one of those powerful entry ops in the game at the minute. Can it be the same for Ambi, who has been probably the most powerful, consistent player in this series at the minute?
Surf too, don't forget. Surf has been very steady. But yeah, I mean, Ambi showed up huge. It was Pambazoo in the previous matchup, who was the star for DarkZero after Kobe Lax had an incredible first map on Cafe. If they take rotations, if they take turns, oh my, no. Surf looked like he was going to be a little bit slow on that one. He didn't do a single point of damage to Kobe Lax, who still hangs on to his position inside of Break Room. Logic bombs will go out along with one of those death marks, but there are mute jammers aplenty sent all around this bomb site that will keep them safe for the time being. Canadian taking damage from those impacts. He's reduced to a third of his HP, and he's in a rough spot.
I mean, this is that problem that we actually saw early on the Chalet map, was when you would have the isolation caused by a bit of an overextension from the side of the blitz, you'd find yourself stuck in a tight spot with no support system to get you out of there. That was what was punished. Here, it hasn't been yet. Canadians just been able to tuck and retreat their way out of it and find themselves a semblance of safety elsewhere. But with a minute 10, with a failed initial incursion towards the map, and with not really any rested control anywhere, they're going to have to reevaluate what they want to do. The break on towards the office wall, the idea of planting behind A means you've got to get rid of NJR. You can see they're droning him out, but as long as there is a C4 in the position underneath this site, you have no guarantee, no safety, and no, you're just going to trade a body out at a moment. So there's a bit of a rotate round, there's a bit of a drop down for the pressure, but they cannot get that kill, they cannot get that take. They have to give themselves a little bit more support. The first goes. It's Kobe caught with Pamba almost instantly following a double. For Ambi, gets himself off to a screaming start. As I said, Deimos is going to be that lead through. Canadian's going to see if he can try and use this pocket to get the plant. They've forced the player away from that position, and it gets itself confirmed with Rexon finding Nafe and someone else getting a kill that doesn't show up on our feed. It's all down to Bolo, but not for very long.
A flawless round, and you can see King Monkey himself screaming at the monitor, as he and the rest of the team will be very happy with that one. They all spawn into Border, and none of them die, none of them lose their lives. Border has been played through 55 rounds so far in the NA League. 53% of those rounds have been won by the attackers, at least 47% won by the defenders, which isn't a terrible difference. That's what we refer to as a coin toss map. SQ did do battle on this map yesterday against Space Station. Soniqs prevailed by a score of 7-4, and they had banned the Dokkaebi against SSG, as they did in both of their matchups. That was a targeted ban. The targeted ban this time is the Glass. Border was also played by DarkZero and M80 yesterday. And Border, in the Border matchup, DZ banned Blitz and Azami. Well, since Azami is taken by Soniqs, DarkZero had a bit of freedom. They banned the Mira and instead opted to go with the Montaigne. who was banned out in every single one of those matchups. DZ banned Monty twice on Chalet and Clubhouse, but it was M80 to ban him on that particular map. So things are pretty normal here. The only difference is that there is a Dokkaebi available this time around for Soniqs. They will forego the Korean nuisance op. As you can see the lineup right now in the bottom right corner of your screen, a Lion will be brought as one of those oppressive roles to freeze the defenders. That's a relatively early EE1D. 20 seconds into the round and already Canadian has pulled the trigger.
It almost feels like an accident. You know, sometimes you can understand it if you think someone's playing on a window and you can catch them on the run away. And as I said, this is a quick map to get into these fights. You can understand it if it's for a Deimos to get a name and a face to track, but there wasn't anything that immediately came on the back of that. Ready to try and get this deep angle, but Nate's not ready to find the other end of it. It's Pamba that actually gets Ambi locked out. No multiple kills, none at all for him this round. How will they operate on the back foot? Will we finally start getting actual traded back and forth rounds between these two teams on this, the decider map? As you can see, Soniqs trying to reevaluate. Again, every time you bring a Nook, you assume they're doing a high-risk, high-reward maneuver, and I don't think we've seen it work out. There was one time where someone was able to sneak a Nook in towards Bar on Chalet, but otherwise all the attempts have fallen short. And here, short attention is paid just in towards the site. They're going for the hop, the pressure in towards detention and jail as it's open. Rexon gets NJR. The concern is that they'll have angles above, and you need to have a player on the window putting pressure so they don't just do exactly this. Bolo, he has this angle. He has this important role to get them as soon as they try and enter. We've seen him dominate from this kind of position before, and I'm curious how they're going to try and overcome it. It seems like they're still looking for scrappy engagements. They have loads of time at this point, and there is a rotate that goes. Surf gets Kobe in the meantime, and Canadian misses out as Nafe does find Grixer. Things are sort of traded back and forth, sort of flowed, but that main territory, that main verticality has not been removed yet.
Bambazu now taking up this position over towards jail and almost missing out on that kill onto Rexon. Out goes one of those goo canisters. Nafe taking down Surf. Sonic struggling through this one. They've gone from a flawless round to just Canadian left standing. He doesn't have a ton of time to deal with. He'll rotate around with the goo doing damage in his foot. He has no utility. No secondary gadgetry either. He gets swung by Panbazoo. And Troy is worried about where these last two players lay in wait. Nafe over by the server rack. Bolo at the moment unaccounted for. He's up top now over by Metal. Canadian will go for the plant by the double door. Bolo will be the closest in striking distance, and he will get the job done wandering down Metal stairs. 1-1.
Traded rounds. Ambi losing their life first. This was actually a point of curiosity I asked before, is how far away are we from the best of 3 kill record? Obviously, Ambi's had a couple of great maps. Pamba's second was fantastic, and the distance is about 20 kills. So for the money that our producer has given me, 55 is still the standing online best of 3, best of 5 kill record. Ambi came into this map on 36. We need to hit 20 to be able to surpass it. Pamba, 33. So a little bit further behind, but not a million miles away. Both of them able to get 2 kills apiece in the opening 2 rounds. How far can they go?
We do have a lot of different kill records that we need to keep an eye on and focus on. We've got the LAN kill record, we've got the minor kill record, we've got the major kill record, we've got the best of 1 kill record, best of 5 kill record as well.
So many records.
Yes.
I've cast 1. I think I cast 2 of the records that are currently standing. I know
I think you might have done the OGA Pit one.
No, the OGA Pit was Hap and Sternap. I did the Onigiri with Hap. I think I did the Citizen game, but time is a blur, and it was in 2021. Oh! And Kobe is sent into the past as well, sleeping says Rexin. I mean, it's unfortunate because, you know, you look at that first map and they were brilliant, Kobe. They've just, unfortunately, lost a bit of steam, and that's maybe one of those tells of new X Factor players, right? Is in these kind of games, this is when they're going to be the most tested. This is when they're going to be the most stressed. You can have dynamite performances, you're coming in, but marathon shows. Better to learn it now than in a month when you're in the major, put under the pressure, the flashes come out. And here they're trying to get full control of CC and security. They're forcing them out of the little cubby corner, forcing them back into long and further away from the hold. And JR hasn't entirely given it away, but Ambi gets the drop on towards Nafe. Let's see if they can pick up another at this point. 2 bodies gone, 2 of those big lean-in killers. And with NJR moving actually back in towards break and then stepping even closer. They want to retake the ground that was otherwise removed from them. Bolo gets Ambi, goes for a chance on a spray on someone else. NJR sort of says, look, I'm not going to stick around and find out what happens next, because Rexin points it out to Bolo. And with a minute of 4 versus 2 now, for them to see if they can try and get rid of Pamba and get into the site. NJR has an idea, but unfortunately, safety first was the MO. Tucked, waiting for the watch. Pamba has the vertical. Again, they didn't know he was there. Gets the easy pickup onto Canadian. It's the next fight that matters, as Rexin gets the security, leaving just NJR alone.
Smokes will go out, and now with diffuser in hand, Grixer will attempt the plant. NJR is the only player that could possibly deal with this. Surf drops. NJR also gets Rexin. It puts him and Grixer in a 1v1, but his position is known. Grixer looks like he's vacated the building. It's a dangerous spot for NJR to be in. He's got 1 gas canister remaining, and he has no information. He thinks that it's been an A-bomb take. Rexin will taunt him in all chat, as that Kludge drone has taken a lot of the tools from the defenders away from him. NJR will ignore the chat and go for this, but this will be an easy pick for Grixer, who gets compelled on in. Wait, hold on! But it was too late! We have cut away. I don't think there's enough time. It's going to come down to the wire. DarkZero still wins it. You've got to be shitting me.
I can't believe we got away. Oh, we come back, thank the world, but that couldn't have been closer. I talk about the many games that we've watched. We've seen many close calls, but that was, what, 7.0 something when we cut away. It would have got even tighter before he held the kit. We need that one in slow-mo. The slowest of Mo. That, ouch. But that has been overshadowed by a defuse with nothing else on it.
I'm stunned. It was literally 0.02 seconds. 0.02 seconds at what might be the closest that we have ever seen.
That's the difference of a slightly worse keyboard. And that's insane. Oh, mate. This game has it all. 2-1. Sorry, neighbors, it's 5 a.m., but this deserves screaming. DarkZero somehow pull that one out. A 3 versus 1 post-plant clutch. Huge. Now, we get to see what the response is. As I said, traded rounds. That's sort of the MO. That's the game that we're massively enjoying out of this so far. I kind of want another OT. I kind of want it to go all the way, and I kind of want to have more bloodshed about it. We're getting these players starting to get in. We're getting these players start to get themselves off. You know, you want Grixer and Kobe to maybe find a kill or 2 each across this round, really get everybody a full taste and see what else they have. to carry on that consistency. There's Surf removing Pamba. Getting the drop on a player who is massively impactful in the previous map. One of those driving forces for the team. There's a bit of exploration outside the map. Maybe it was just a crossing of position to retake and replace Bolo. He's trying to just hold down inside the cubby, watching out from the backside of security towards Canadian, who might be trying to make their entrance. There he is, Bolo, just popping shots towards Breakin. Oh, he'll go for the transfer. He's not going to let himself get caught out.
Canadian has survived long enough to be able to have some level of impact, but you're going to hear this shield op coming from a mile away. The hard work that was done earlier in the round by Grixer on that soft wall, now hard wall, obviously being shown off. Kobilax getting picked away at. I don't know who it was that did all that damage. There is a Doc with 2 stim pistols. Bolo favors this op time and time again, especially on this armory bomb site. Canadian will square away and lose the engagement. Ambi is not close enough to follow up. He almost loses his life as well. Huge value from NJR as the diffuser will need to be retrieved. There's Kobilax back up from the dead. Gumine stuck in the foot of Grixer in the final 30 seconds of the round, unfolding as Ambi gets the diffuser down. Bolo is swatted away. This one might be over sooner than we thought. Diffuser does not go down, but Ambi gets the final kill, and that's the round for Soniqs.
Almost spoilt for choice there, Bolo. When he broke in towards Fountain, it's one of those frustrating moments where you know, if there's one target, you absolutely destroy them. If there's 2, you aim down the middle of the 2. And it's just the reaction that you're trying to have, threat assessment, evaluation within the blink of an eye, as soon as you swing the corner. It's that sort of trade out moment. There's one. And again, another traded round, another bit of a back and forth. Kobe, he gets his first kill of this map. As I said, I want all of the players getting their teeth stuck in. Grixer as well, able to get one. Everybody is now in the gun game, in the fight. Early on, 2 apiece. Maybe we're going the distance.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Shouldn't shock anybody.
Do you believe?
I think that at this point, with the way that the teams are situated, it would be foolish for us to expect this to be a quick one. Again, if we go back to those border numbers that I cited earlier on, 53 to 47%, slight favor for the attackers, but still a relatively small sample size here in NA. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th least played map. Yeah, I mean, right now with the way things are looking, fatigue will definitely set into these teams, depending on where they're located, whether they're in Central or West Coast. We are fast approaching midnight for those on the East Coast. I know for a fact that Canadian is on the East Coast because he lives just a short drive from me.
Because he's a New Yorker.
No.
Oh.
I don't know where everybody else in DZ is. They were originally at their compound in Vegas. I wonder if they're still in Vegas. If not, DZ might have migrated back to Texas. I'd heard whispers in the wind that they were looking at a move to Texas, but I don't know if there's any truth to that, and I have no idea their genuine whereabouts. They're all obviously together in a team house. SQ are not. They are playing at their own homes, and then you'd have to know where these 5 players are located. Rexon, I believe, is from Cali, I want to say, but I'm not entirely certain. Either way, fatigue does begin to set in. If you woke up at a normal human time today, so say like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, like a lot of people do, you've been awake now for about 14 hours, and these have been pretty grueling hours for you if you've been scrimming. First kill, by the way, goes against SQ. They lose Ambi, they trade it back by getting rid of Nafe. That's the Oryx off the board.
Ooh, Kobe. Oh no! I was gonna say he caught them unaware, but Rexon had stepped back, almost anticipating, I think, his ace charge, the Selma, to open, and then he could aim down the barrel of it, but instead, because he got taken out, the game was given up, and he still tried to swing into it. Now it's the cost of material, but instead of it being a sneaky swing, you instead made the statement you hoped the player's back was turned, and it was not. Bolo gets Surf. Canadian almost got the back of Bolo. The Doctor gets himself a back up, is just dancing with these tight corners. There's a 1 versus 1, and CC goes into Pamba's favor. Gets rid of Rexon. 3 versus 2, and they have a decent bit of utility here to at least get some coverage. Oh, but the coverage is Bolo's. Swings the corner, finds Grixer, leaves Canadian alone. A man and his bees. Like a sad children's book with a fairy tale ending.
Kobe Lax has been a glue guy for this team. They've talked about how he brings good vibes. Floating, I believe, is the term that is used quite regularly by these players. And I mean, you need somebody who can always bring good vibes to the team. Anybody who's played any type of competitive sport knows what it is like when you are losing and everybody is upset. Everybody. There needs to be somebody to pull you back from the brink. It's the one thing that Canadian used to get praised for, is that while he tilts, he still has his focus as laser-like as can be. And even when things go bad, you need to be able to talk. You need somebody to be able to get them back in the game. You look at a team like DarkZero, and they're not really all that chatty. NJR and Pambazoo are almost never saying a word when the cam is on them. Kobe isn't speaking very much either. It's usually Nafe doing most of the talking, with the odd contribution from DZ players. And Bolo actually tends to be decently vocal as well. You don't want a team where too many people talk. It gets chaotic. Comms get crowded. You want some form of structure where there is a leader in the room calling most of the time. Or most of the teams like that. It's a bit more democratic for some of these squads. Somebody like Kobe Lax being able to keep the players in good spirits. You might not bring something from a leadership perspective, but just being an affable person goes an awful long way. And the mood of a team can make a big difference. If you're hopelessly outclassed, the mood isn't really going to do much for you. But if it's a tight matchup, as you see this one being, having somebody to keep the team level-headed, especially the later we go into the night, is huge.
The defense around jail is quickly being smashed open now. It was Bolo above that caused problems, and when they had that problem on Chalet, they had the great answer of going up and focusing on it, and that's kind of what you want Soniqs to do here. Fight for the even half, fight for the traded rounds, keep things back and forth. Now, that wall being electrified isn't the actual end of the world. There was a trick where you could sort of get anything on that soft, which is why it gets destroyed. So instead, they still have to have another sort of flag waving, go upstairs, go upstairs. Look towards the pressure on CC and security. At this point, just still getting some of the ideas that, well, it's a bit bare, it's a bit barren, you know, the hole that they want to do, and someone's exploring outside somewhere at least. There's an entrance happening on the back of the site. There's some motion inside. There's the warden getting a reveal. There's them being forced off by the Capital bolt, and they're using this to plant slightly off around the corner. They're trying to close back in. Pamba gets one. Rexon is gone. They're spraying through the wall, and they've been able to successfully get it together here. The shotgun trying to get the lockdown on the soft wall. They've slowly backed out of their Canadian, but they're not out of the woods yet. Grixer gets the lockdown, swinging further and further with the pistol, but what do you do at this point? You never technically lost the verticality, but you did lose that one to Ambi. Swings round with Surf getting another, and Soniqs from a single Capital bolt cleared the space and made the most of it.
Well, would you believe it's a 3-3 first half?
Yes, I would.
Oh.
Because I wanted it. I willed it. I put it on my mood board.
These two teams really do not care for one another, and you can see it in the way that they interact in the server. This is obviously a high-stakes match. This is not an unimportant match, and anybody who says that or whatever really needs to get their head checked at this point. The SI points on the line for Soniqs, very, very critical, but more than that, it's a statement game. It's a statement game for the Soniqs. A statement game, frankly, for most of these teams that are playing in the playoffs, but especially these two. Troy wants to prove to DarkZero that they made a mistake by getting rid of him. DZ wants to make a point that they're better off without him. Neither of these teams are making a more credible argument at the moment. 8-7, DarkZero on map 1. That was Soniqs' map. DZ wins it 8-7. On DZ's map, Soniqs wins it 8-7. Now here we are on Border, a map that realistically is a 3-3 map. based on just the fact that it's like 53% attackers, 47% for the defenders. And what do we have? We have a 3-3 first half. It never ends. We also had one of the most exciting clutch moments that has been seen in the North American League.
I've seen
with
this
that
screenshot.
pixel perfect diffuse. Oh, I saw it. Just really a tremendous moment, and one that I'm sure will be brought up consistently. Now DarkZero moves to attack and Soniqs on to defense.
This game is the equivalent to a fist fight outside of an establishment at 3 in the morning. It would be...
We call that Waffle House.
It's that, because it would be just as intense if no one was watching, right? It would be a full send, full passion, get your hands in there and see what can come out. The C4 gets Bolo on the window. The Deimos is dancing back and forth, but Surf says, yeah, I'm here, mate. Square up. If you're feeling froggy, leap. And Nafe now alone in a 1 versus 4. Probably taking...
There's still 1 minute and 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
And what is Nafe gonna do? He sits and holds this position over towards Metal, waiting for somebody from Soniqs to maybe give him a leg up. Soniqs are not that kind of team. They're not moving at all. Nafe will instead patrol looking over towards East and now swing through Office. While I wonder if the rest of the team is talking shop. I mean, Nafe is the leader on the team. If there's anybody to talk strategy, it should be him. But instead, they're just going to let it play out. Never mind. Ambi pops up. He sees Nafe, gets the read through Office. And the very first round of the second half goes to SQ, who gained the lead. That was a very fast collapse by DarkZero. And now it's Soniqs taking advantage of it to grab the lead in the second half.
When will exhaustion start to show? Nothing takes it out of you more than traded rounds, because there's almost a sort of emotional economy that plays into it, where you get a bit of a breath, you get a time to say, oh, no, the pressure's back up. Okay, we now step up, and it's that traded back and forth. Here, it is just foot down on the gas pedal, staring at each other, seeing who's going to be the first to falter or fumble or look at the road. Soniqs, step ahead. Started with the C4, locked it down, swung into the Deimos. I mean, if you sit and rest on your laurels in that situation, you're going to get caught. There's, again, so many limitations to the space that you can survive on, theoretically, when you are being Deimos tracked on border, because everything is generally thin. There is multiple different levels, and that gun tears through all of them. So being aggressive, being the first point of call, saying step up can work you wonders. Now it's DarkZero's turn to step up. Did everything to try and control that space once again and force a bit of motion here. The Grim, the Deimos stacked up with the Ash. It's a very aggressive, very forward-thinking lineup, and the first thought and port of call is to start eyeing up around Office and underneath the site as well. Maybe force some of the half-wall positions, force them maybe out of security. It's not the full idea of a slow and steady Ossa shield take that you see a lot of teams go, no. This is a brawl. This is fists up. And this is smashing their way in underneath.
Lots of nuisance ops again for DarkZero. They are absent a dedicated hard breacher. It, in fact, will not bring any hard breach whatsoever. It is quite odd that we are in a meta where teams just decide to forego hard breach because there's a lot of tools for them to use to pin down these defenders. I suppose it's not really necessary that you breach open walls if you're just going to go for a relatively linear attack and commit to a lot of soft destruction down below. There isn't much soft destruction that can be done down below if you look at the operators, though, but the Deimos will obviously work wonders at shaking one of those defenders off of the spots. As for DarkZero, with the half of the round to go, they are lined up for an Archives execute. They sit up top, and once again, they wait very patiently for somebody on Soniqs to give them anything, but SQ has been far too patient on their defenses.
3 smoke canisters, now 2 C4s, and you worry how this is going to go when you tack on the idea of maybe the Frost Mats and the Legion. This isn't really the best point of route through, and Pamba gets Canadian as Nafe goes down, and the kit was in his pockets too. They have time to try and recollect it. Pamba gets another. DarkZero keeps that energy, and Nafe is back to his feet. This deep cross angle, but it's caught by Ambi from underneath. 11-3, still tearing his way through, still a halfway to the best of 3 kill record potentially. Grixer gets the C4, Soniqs still somehow fighting back every step. They've got to recollect the kit now. Nafe traipsing their way. It was a frost map that downed them, so they're hobbling for the rest of this round and the rest of the time because they got themselves out of it. Bolo has some safety of the site, has some of the cross angle, can cover some of it, but he's got to be quick and he's got to have the catch perfect. Nafe, it's not that he doesn't trust it, but it's that they couldn't stop it.
Big round for Grixer. Big round for everybody on Soniqs as they take that round and stretch their lead. I suspect with neither of these teams having used in their timeout that we will see DZs pop up, and that looks exactly like what's going to happen as DZ, with this close matchup, have now kind of lost the plot on this second half, the back half of this map. You can see the score lines there on the middle portion of your screen, with them having won in the first half 3-3, but so far looking a little bit listless. Soniqs' patience must be frustrating this DZ team, whereas DZ usually makes their own openings. There's been nothing this half. Soniqs has given them nothing. DZ will struggle with that. They brought those nuisance ops like we talked about. They brought the Deimos. There are other options at their disposal as well that can be used to roam clear and figure out where these players are to take them down. The mute jammers, maybe they're causing a bigger problem. Look at that. DarkZero had 0 drones remaining. No information whatsoever. They could bring a Brava, they could bring a Twitch, they can have the Deimos in addition to it. But again, I was a little bit skeptical at the lineup that was brought by DarkZero. They didn't bring a single hard breacher, which at that point means you cannot tackle armory whatsoever. If you do not have a hard breacher and the wall is fully reinforced, that's it. You cannot deal with armory, period. I mean, you can try. It's probably not going to work very well. That kind of pigeonholes you into an Archives execute. An Archives executes hint on 2 things. Number 1, exterior control, whether it be the hallway that's just outside of that Archives door or the ventilation rooftop area by the window into Archives. And the other one comes in office and fountain. Again, if you have no hard destruction, you can't open up that single panel wall into Archives, which means that you have to hope that the defenders have left some of those walls inside a fountain unaccounted for and unreinforced. If that's not the case, you're doomed. I have no choice but to kind of wag my finger at DarkZero with the way that they attempted that round, given their lack of hard breach. They've made that, they're not making that mistake this time around. They've completely blown up their lineup, and they will bring a traditional hard breacher in ace.
For those keeping record on the score, Ambi is theoretically 6 kills away from tying the best of 3 record, 7 from beating it. It's 55 kills. Now I'm getting our boffins in the studio to run those numbers and make sure what I'm saying is factual, and that's for them to count up. But for us is to just watch and see if he gets to that magical 20. The pressure onto jail. Gets popped open. Won't get rid of the electricity and activate in time to allow it to stop the pop-off. They're trying to just push and isolate this single player that is stuck on the custom side. They can maybe get one, maybe force out that defender of Soniqs. It gives them that step up, that extra little bit of advantage here. Anything to keep themselves off of map and series point, to keep it within 1 round. This is the first time here we've really had a distance and a difference between the 2 teams, and Rexin inside fountain feels that pressure coming around. Ambi on the stretch is some support, but on the hatch as well. They want to make sure that they don't get the first bite. DarkZero, they are ghosts floating around, just making enough of a presence to make them fear every direction, but not enough to give them the fight. It's Pamba, who has very consistently over the past couple of rounds been that one from DarkZero who's gotten a kill or 2. but they just haven't been able to trust the fight yet as much as they are scaring with the Halloween energy. Soniqs are the one that have got the kills at the end of the day. You can see some of the damage starting to done. The call to back it up, 50 seconds, and the first one is Ambi to strike. Drops NJR, and Pamba knocks Ambi out of the whole map itself. A 40-second 4 versus 4. Slowly turns away as Pamba gets another bolo. Massively hurt, but still standing. They try and creep their way down. Nafe finding Surf. Grixer finding Nafe. Right back and forth. The pressure's still on the plants. They have the man disadvantage, but it's going to turn into a 2 versus 2. Canadian spray in the window, putting the fear into them. Looks for the fight on the rafters, but Pamba had the game guessed, as I said. He's been the player, the force that keeps them fighting in it, and Grixer missed the moment. Kobe from the top ropes drops the player in the bathroom, keeps us within 1 round.
Well, DZ take their time out and they immediately translate it towards a successful round, and they close the gap. If they win the next one, it goes to a 5-5 scoreline, and for the 3rd game in a row, every game of this series, we will be, for sure, getting every round of regulation. At that point, I have to wonder if either of these teams have what it takes to close out in regulation, or if we go to overtime yet again. This is a matchup that will be remembered for quite some time. Oh, he threw the drone at the wall. I was very curious as to what was happening there. I was like, what are we what are we looking at?
An oopsie.
I like the changes that were immediately made from DarkZero, by the way. They were a little bit too linear on their previous execute. Very little imagination as to how they would take that site. Maybe a little bit of pressure below with the Ash. And what do? Well, they bring a whole bunch of different tools. They bring a Flores for added destructive capabilities. They bring the Dokkaebi to really get under the skin of these defenders. They bring a dedicated hard breacher. I don't care what map it is. You are almost always going to benefit from having Ace in your lineup. Maverick, probably not. Thermite, sometimes, mostly no. Very map specific. But an Ace and a Hibana are almost always good on border. I don't care what teams you are. I don't care what the site setup is for the defenders. I think it is a bit foolish to approach this map without any hard destruction whatsoever. And if you don't want to run an Ace, you at least need to bring a can opener. That secondary hard breach gadget. DarkZero did not do that. So the fact that DZ made changes, and it immediately paid off. They were able to cut through the defenses of Soniqs a lot easier while also having tools to clear out utility and deal with the stragglers across the map, forcing Soniqs out of their positions, which has been the major hurdle. DZ obviously got a pretty stern talking to from either Mint or Nave said, hold on, what are we doing? Let's change some things. And it worked.
They're not entirely trying to check and face check every engagement now at this point. Soniqs, they've sort of kept that steady idea they had and played well with on Chalet, where they're giving parts of the territory over, saying, look, we know you're going to want this, we know you're going to expect this, we'll pull ourselves a bit cautiously back. Control of East Stairs and stepping through with the swing, just pre-firing the break wall. But it's Ambi to get NJR and Rexon to get Bolo, and Soniqs, they're able to smash their way through. So now you've got to try and, turn on the engines and see if you can get the afterburners all the way through. Pamba finds Canadian. Ambi massively hurt. They've been able to shift this round somehow. DarkZero claimed 3 bodies out of the back of 2 being lost on their lead in. They lose their Ying, lose their Dokkaebi. And from then on, still finds success until Ambi steps closer and closer before he's knocked out of it. A 2 versus 1. Surf. All that's left to try and keep this in their favor, keep this off of an even game, get themselves on towards map and series point. Pamba and Kobe. 2 huge guys.
Kobe has completely disappeared. He has vanished from the last 2 maps. His numbers are just really quite dreadful. I think he's like 6 and 19 if you combine map 2 and 3 at the current moment. That is a far cry from what we saw out of him all the way back in map number 1. It all comes up to Surf. Ambi is within striking distance of the best of 3 kill record. DarkZero, frankly, needs to win this round if Ambi wants a shot, but victory is what SQ wants. Diffuser almost goes down, but they think otherwise of it. They need to figure out where Surf is, or else DarkZero can get caught with their pants down.
This is the right idea. Push up. Kobe gets the kill. We're tied up 5 apiece, Parker.
This is what we need. This is what we expect between these teams. We will again need all 12 rounds of regulation. Map 1 went all 15. Map 2 went all 15. And we will get at least 12, guaranteeing us 3 maps in a row of every round of regulation. The best of 3 kill record, which we will now start to talk about a little bit more because we are on the verge of seeing it get broken, stands at 55 kills by Citizen. That is the online best of 3 kill record in Tier 1 competition, of course, because kill record could be higher in Tier 2, Tier 3. We don't know. We don't care. We don't track that. 55 kills. It's what Citizen set at. He set that in the EUL finals back in 2021. That record has not been touched in 3 years. Ambi, if he hits 19 kills in this match, he is 3 shy of that total. Ambi will tie that number and share the record with Citizen. 4 kills for Ambi, the record is his and his alone. 20 is the magic number at the bottom of your screen, and Ambi will be guaranteed at least 2 more opportunities to do that. If he can pick up 2 kills in each of the next 2 rounds, the record is his. He has really, really warmed up as this match has gone on, and while he had some struggles, as all players do, his bounce back has been something else, and it's really been spectacular to see. Certainly making up for the deficiencies that Canadian has had, and I say this with quite a smile so far through this series. Ambi dies immediately to Kobe, so this will be a little bit more challenging. They walk in, dispatch Ambi. It's almost as if they heard what I was talking about and took it personally.
Well, let's even things out as well, because Pamba isn't a million miles away either. He's a bit further. He started this needing 23 to break the record, 22 to tie it. So he's 8 kills off of it in this situation. If you get into OT and you get a couple of kills tied together, it's not impossible for him to catch up. Now's the time that he could pull himself level with that opportunity. Here, holding on and waiting for the next point of call. I love that when when DarkZero got that kill, they immediately fled the scene, got out of there, no witnesses, and 1 less. Okay, we've cursed both of the 2 players on the kill record chance. Spambo was the next to go, but Grixer does find Nafe. Soniqs, for the first time in a little bit of time, have been able to get this body clear of their opponents. They're able to get themselves stepped up with a chance of maybe doubling down onto engagements. The boss, gee, both of them miss out, and Canadian does not. Kobe goes the bottom of the eastern stairs. Feels like we're pushing our way towards Soniqs on the stop. There's the flashes close round on the corner. They want to dive in with the pistol. They find the end of Canadian, but they get down from the spray through the wall. A lot of time, but a 1 versus 3, and you're in a bit of an uncomfortable situation here, and you think about where the side is, you're still taking fights down below.
Final minute to go, and it's NJR with multiple silhouettes lined up behind the lumber. We'll have to do some wood shedding. As he now rotates around, Rexon shuts him down, and Soniqs will move to match point. Series point. It has been a back and forth contest where these 2 teams have struggled to make space between one another. They have been clinging to each other for dear life. And I hope this is a rivalry that, as it starts to grow, we don't see cool off anytime soon. It is personal for these teams. We could be entering the final round of this matchup. Fatigue has worn on. It is very late, 12:06 a.m. We will end this match on a different day than it started. Obviously, it depends on the time zones of these players, but they will be getting tired the later we go into the match. Soniqs with the lead, though.
Do you know what is fun? I am 10 minutes away from when my alarm was set yesterday morning to wake up for Japan.
You did admittedly sleep between those matches, though.
Yeah, no, I didn't. If I did it all during the day, I would just be speaking nonsense right now. But
you're not?
Well, some people would say so. One of the things that it is worth looking at is just how much weight is being carried by the players in the team. If you look over towards DZ, Pamba is that force factor. Pamba is that one that is so clear and far ahead. The others, you know, the EPS difference, they're sitting up there on 151, and then it drops all the way down to 83 as the next best. The rest of the team is struggling. In the meantime, 3 players on the side of Soniqs, Ambi, Grixer, and Surf, all putting in the preference, all sort of positive. Rexon's not a million miles away. Canadian is the only one that's behind the sort of half of things, but that team balance of gun game just seems to be the difference maker at this late point of not only the next day, but also the time in the series. DarkZero have to try and take us into our third OT of this series. Canadian sat in waiting room. It's just
It is really quite insane. Just to add to your point, Pambazoo is the only positive player or the only player on DarkZero with a positive KD, and they are 1 round away from tying things up. That is ridiculous. Grixer is positive, Rexon is tied, Surf is tied, Ambi is positive. The kills are unequivocally favoring Soniqs so far. But I mean, it's not all just about kills. Who was it yesterday? Was it DZ where they only won 2 rounds or something like that on Clubhouse? And they did it with very minimal kills. They had like 4 or 3 kills in the span of 2 or 3 rounds. It was quite dreadful. This is a game where kills are not the whole story. DZ desperately needs to win this round to prolong the matchup. Canadian dies, a tale as old as time. Ambi goes down as well. If this is the final round, the kill record will be safe. That also relies on Soniqs' final 3 players to kill the 5 remaining from DZ, none of whom have taken any damage at this point, which for attackers is really quite something. 5v3 favoring DarkZero with just a little bit over a minute to go, and overtime seeming more and more likely.
The Surgeon's incision on towards border, as you said. Came and conquered. Been able to pull themselves back. A play that I complimented them on before, their ability to get out of dodge. But the worry here could potentially be Rexon on the Oryx. The ability to snap your way back round and change up what they expect of the hole, change up what they expect of the position. The blitz charges on through and Grixer goes down. There's Surf dropping on towards Pamba and getting the kill, but if they hit the air jab and rotate their way out, can they confirm the player they got the down on? I think they were able to hit the hatch. Grixer was, and they're crawling for their life. In this time, the plant, they're going to see if they can try and get it confirmed. They're still hunting players underneath. Bolo doesn't just want to swing onto this, gets the final, but look how far away now the 2 remaining defenders are. They're really playing this as a sort of response take at this. Maybe going to try and take the verticality once again, pre-firing the angle to stop them coming in, but they don't have the stop on Rexon. Look at the timer! Soniqs! Oh, they were close! They were close with a way that we would have seen reflected from how the best of 1 ended when these 2 teams met on Skyscraper. But no, not yet, not quite. We are on our 3rd overtime.
Every single map will need all of the distance. At least 2 more rounds guaranteed. It's a rarity for us to go 15, 15, 15. We are not there just yet. 15, 15, 14 is guaranteed in terms of round count. It has been a tremendously long night. We started our first match, you and I, almost 6.5 hours ago. And by the way, the first series only went 2 maps, and one of those maps was a 7-2. We are really enjoying this. And this honestly has been a very high quality match between these teams. Yeah, there's been sloppiness. Yeah, there's been issues. And when fatigue does start to set in, as we can see, the quality of play will degrade ever so slightly. Round by round, things will worsen. This looks like it'll be a time. Oh, nope. I was going to say it looks like it would be a timeout for Soniqs, who, as far as I'm aware, Soniqs still have their timeout. I don't know if you have seen otherwise. The only timeout that I can recall was done by DarkZero. We don't have any information as to why there's a technical pause. We always try to update you. As always, frustration you have with tech pauses is well shared by us, and we appreciate your patience as hiccups seem to happen.
Nafe, quick problem, but I mean, this game has just had everything. It's had everything that you want, and this deep, this far, this cut across it. I don't know who's gonna take this. Flip a coin. We're going all the way. But now, this pause, it's almost like just before you take the leap and everything slows down. It's where we sit right now. Can you feel it, Parker?
I'm sneezing at the moment because my allergies are quite bad.
Are you allergic to tech pauses?
No, if I was allergic to tech pauses, I would be dead by now.
Oh no. Well,
it's talk about a momentum suck. The round ends and we go to OT and it's thrilling, and then there's a tech pause and it just sucks the wind out of the sails. I suspect that we're back in the action though, which is quite good. Hopefully audio problems have been addressed and everything is in working order. That was a shorter tech pause than we are used to, which is good. This prolongs the matchups and kind of, well, it sucks the air out of the room. That's it. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what broke, but it has been very pronounced. Either way, guaranteed 2 more rounds. DarkZero pushing Soniqs to the brink. Soniqs were sitting on match point. DZ outmuscled them over those last 2 rounds, and now here we are in OT for the 3rd map in a row and the 4th map tonight. We've only played 5 maps. 3 of them went to all 15 rounds. Will this one join? Let's find out.
Again, quick fun reminder, Ambi looking at that 20 kill number for kill record. Pambazoo looking at 23. And Pambaz is a little bit further out, but I mean, who knows at this point, really. As you can clearly see on the stats, they've been doing the heavy lifting on killing people on their team. Soniqs has it a little bit more evenly spread, but Ambi's been shut out both of the most recent rounds without them being able to get anything on towards that 16 score, so maybe that'll give them a moment of rest. Kobe's been able to find a couple of bodies recently as they're eyeing up where this first point is. DarkZero, their most recent attacks have been quite sharp. They've made sure they pulled themselves back from the brink. They sort of smash in and take a body, and NJR, the frustration. You can see it there. He's caught by a C4. It's the first time we've had a proper NJR react cam.
That does not bode well for DarkZero as they get collapsed upon. 1 kill for Ambi as he gets turned on over towards Fountain. He's still in this position, but a hard wall separates him and Pambazoo, both of them finding a kill in this round. Ambi finished off by Bolo as the numbers will now equalize. Canadian joins his teammates in the grave. Grix are down 2. It's all up to Surf to hold this together. Use whatever wave, simile, metaphor, euphemism, whatever you want.
That
round is ended by DarkZero. They sit on match point. They set a very quick pace on that round, and they are now 1 away from topping North America.
Breathe it in. Closer and closer. Stretch the neck out. Will we get another Max OT? Will you and I have seen every single possible round that these players have thrown themselves into? Ambi got 1. Pamba got 2. It's not a million miles away for either of them.
What did you say it was for Pambazoo? 23, so he's 4 kills away?
He started 3 kills behind, so he was on 33 to Ambi's 36, I believe, at the start of this. So whatever Ambi needed
just as an FYI, the stat tracker that we use does not always work when there are numerous tech issues and players have to rehost the lobby. So it was actually Lynx, and shout out to Lynx for doing this. Lynx, who is just currently enjoying this, just as a viewer, decided to go back and manually add up every single one of Ambi's kills, and we are now approaching the time where maybe the same should be done for Pambazoo, but we are unfortunately going to run out. This is another downside to tech issues, is that we lose all of the kills, and we don't always have an accurate way of looking at who has what where. All we know is that we can confirm that Ambi is 2 kills away from tying the record. That is tantalizingly close. for him, you have to think the probability will go up if this round is won by Soniqs, because then he will have 2 rounds to pull it off. He was 4 kills away 3 rounds ago. He has only been able to muster a single kill since then. Maybe it's the caster curse, maybe not. But while we talk about that, and again, lots of storylines active, the big one is which of these 2 teams who are so clearly evenly matched will end up as the best of NA.
This first engagement, so important, and it's almost a run out that gets it, but it's Rexon to get Bolo, punishing him for the play that he's made a couple of times. Surf finds Pamba, no more for him. This round puts us into the 5 versus 3. I said that first engagement would be important. The second was almost instantaneous as the double down on the punishment of failed death mark because they sit on a mute jammer. So they won't quite get the full track. Ambi desperately wants this engagement. But isn't going to entirely throw away the chances. Knows how close this is. So Canadian rolls the drone on through the back. Naif isn't going to sit around and suffer the fate that is otherwise being written out for him. They drift their way back. Get themselves the chance at an angle up towards the approach. It's a minute. They've still got to plant. They've still got to be able to waste the time here. And although border is a slim map in terms of going onto the plant, the angles as you go for the drop are what they're trying to surround themselves in here for. Surf finds Naif. A 5-2. And JR suffers a bit of a scrap here on the Dora Customs with Gritzer getting the end. Kobe, all that is left to keep this off of Max OT, gets one. But gets dropped on by Ambi. We're going all the way, Parker.
54 kills for Ambi in this best of 3. 1 away from tying Citizen himself. Not at the time, though, but himself, a former Soniqs player. I believe the credit in the EUL finals comes when he played on the G2 team. I would have to go back to the exact matchup that had occurred in. Soniqs will take their time out because, well, why not? It's the very final round. We need all 15 of every single best of 3. My. I think Troy's cam is frozen, by the way. I don't think that he's meditating or sitting there with his eyes closed for that prolonged period of time. What I will say is that this is as close as many of us expected. There were times after that very first map where I think you could have reasonably thought DZ would take it in a 2-0. Winning Soniqs map, well, it does something to you. I cannot believe this. I genuinely cannot believe this. How long this series has been going for. We're at almost 4 hours in this series between these 2 teams, back and forth with one of the closest clutches we've ever seen. 2 players on the verge of breaking the kill record, and at stake is the first overall seed for the NA League as to which of these squads goes to Montreal in a favorable position. Big storyline here. Soniqs lock in their lineup. DarkZero during the prep phase will now have the next 40-ish seconds, a little bit less, to determine which of these attackers do they actually want to bring. Right now, they seem quite content with their lineup, but times will change.
Maybe I should come cast NA more often. All down to a single round. Now, if you don't know the full stakes, obviously, both these teams are confirmed for phase 2 of the major. There's a difference of 5 SI points for coming first and a prize pool of 30 grand. But we are not here for that. We are here for the stone cold fact that these teams are hate maxing. This is a brawl, this is beef, and this is being settled in the best possible way by having them show up and throw it down at the start of a grudge match I hope keeps going. It starts with this encircling. Again, Soniqs, they're going to see if they can try and ensure they're not caught out on these early takes. DarkZero, they've been very good at stacking up, at finding a weakness and driving the spear through it. It's angles onto break. Angles onto east stairs. They Have to pull on a player, and a goo mine would have slowed down the roll there. So lucky they spotted it before Pamba went for the execute, throwing it down into the corridor, moving right behind it. There's the pressure onto the Selma. They want to keep going, keep driving, and well, Soniqs don't want to find out what happens next. They have just left.
I think it was Rexon who was the first line of defense, playing underneath 90, and he rightly read that it was time to go. You've held map control for about a minute. That's okay. You also committed to a defense that now required 2 Candelas and a bunch of hard destruction to be done. 1 Selma taken out of the pocket of Kobe. The recruit of Striker has not been a fixture for DarkZero, but will emerge very quickly. Grixer taking out Kobe-Lax. Kobe-Lax effectiveness will be discussed, and is probably a big reason why DZ has had a small step back. The very first kill going to Soniqs is huge with half of the round to go.
I'm still looking at that kill feed. Ambi needs 1 at this point. Pamba needs 3. And with a minute to get it settled, both of these teams just need 1. Naif takes a bit of damage. They're going for the drop. Pamba's got himself some very shaky control, but as Rexon gets Bolo, it's Pamba to get Rexon as an immediate response here. They're concerned about the fight that's starting to crash right against them. Pamba gets Canadian. He's only 1 away from getting it tied, I believe, at this point, but they still need to hold some of this territory. Naif is looking for a drop from below, and it's Ambi that just slips on by, hits the bars, not the player. It's long-range firefights, forcing, shepherding, waiting for somebody to step 1 foot wrong and then be put to bed. They keep pushing all the way up to the wall. The plant is being confirmed. Naif on the back line. There's no response until Surf hits it from deep. Surf gets 2! A single player is Pamba with no health, and Abby, he ties it up! I don't know if it's fully fact-checked. I don't know how he ended. We have Soniqs confirmed as first place. I think we have another player tied up on the kill record. We might even have 2, Parker. What a way for it to go.
We need confirmation, obviously, on Panbazoo's position, but of course, how poetic it is that it's Ambi to get the very final kill to vault Soniqs to first seed in the NA League. They will be at the top when it comes to the Montreal Major, and I can only imagine what that man right there on your screen will say to DarkZero, but it is probably something that cannot be repeated on live TV. He is jazzed, he is amped, he is pumped up. DZ dropped Canadian after the World Cup in the summer. It was the biggest story coming out of North America, and he goes to Soniqs and finds new life. And with him, by the hair of their chinny chin chins, 8-7, 8-7, 8-7, all 15 rounds, Soniqs comes out ahead. We've got a break and then the desk to recap what just happened in that series.
I can just run a metal. Should I just run a metal?
No. Wait. He's gonna hit it. He's gonna hit it, Bob. He's gonna hit metal.
Just wait, Tim. Just wait.
Reset, 3v1.
One retreat.
I'm first gun. Let's go!
Guys, is that the closest 45 rounds?
No.
Holy fucking shit!
Big money call. Kyle could never.
Oh my fucking god!
Let's go, guys. Congratulations.
Beast mode call. Beast mode call.
Well-deserved celebration. I mean, that was the kind of match that goes down here in Rainbow Six Siege Legend. 3 maps, 45 rounds. I think they said it was over 4 hours by the end. And every single clash is just driven by spite and pride and sheer bloody mindedness. But at the end, NAL champions, Soniqs.
NAL champions, nothing to drive them but pure hate. D1 haters. They just wanted to beat them. I don't know if I heard it right, but at the end, I think
they made a reference reference towards
yeah.
Call Out. Call Out couldn't do that.
No, it wasn't Call Out. It was Kyle.
Oh,
Mint.
Kyle. Yeah, that's
so
what I was confused.
They made a call, and I think Troy said something like, "Oh, Kyle can never." And I'm assuming Super must have said something towards the team, and they're giving some shade towards DZ's coach, which is Kyle Mint, and so that made a lot of sense. But as for Soniqs, I mean, congratulations to them. What a game. I mean, what a back and forth. I mean, they really fought in it. Credit to DZ. I think, DZ has a lot to be proud of for the whole stage for sure. But, I mean, wow, Soniqs definitely deserved it, and it was earned. I mean, definitely an earned first place.
I mean, I think both these teams should be extremely happy. Sure, obviously one team had to lose here. It unfortunately was DarkZero, but both teams, wonderful performance across the board, just constantly changing up the momentum and the pace of the game throughout each and every single round, each and every single matchup. I mean, this was one hell of a series between these two. And again, both these two teams and players should feel extremely accomplished going into Montreal, playing this well and showing sheer resilience and determination to try to win this game. But again, ultimately that does come down to Soniqs winning it all. And I mean, Ambi on the board, I mean, I think he tied the kill record at 55, and Pamba was one underneath from tying that at 54. I mean, an insane performance from these two, to say the least.
Yeah, it would have been cool if Ambi just, was able to get over that hill. I mean, great shout out to Pamba in that map 3.
That's another 21 kill game that he had.
Yeah, everyone was looking at Ambi to break that record, and then Pamba was just shooting through it at the last rounds. And in that last round, he actually got 3 kills to be 1 off. I mean, he would have needed an ace. Really close, but I mean, obviously the MVP of the series would have to go to Ambi. I mean, that guy was just lights out the whole performance. I mean, 55 total kills. He was really living it up. And I mean, it's nice to see his transition from going to, well, I play mid this stage to I'm literally the best player in playoffs currently. So.
No, Pamba and Ambi specifically. I'll put their names.
God, imagine if you put them together, though. Oh.
No, Ambi is an absolute animal. I mean, again, for being such young and talented and just to constantly be improving. And then, like you were saying, he said he was playing mid throughout this entire stage. To come into playoffs and to keep up this entire performance and tie the kill record, I mean, this kid can absolutely do it all.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways is this game really went 45 rounds down to the wire, and it really showcased both teams' leadership, both teams' IGLing, and both teams' coaching staff. And I think, if anything, that is just a huge confidence boost to both teams going towards the major, that they have the ability to adapt in best of 3s on the fly when the moments matter the most. Obviously now, though, I mean, SQ has a little bit of bragging rights. So
rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so. Yeah. But obviously, great takeaways from both teams.
Yeah, I don't think it's the kind of thing where obviously I know DarkZero is going to be unhappy about losing this. I know Soniqs are going to be over the moon. But like you guys said, I don't think either of them should be ashamed by this at all. Like going into the major, playing a game like that as your last game of the stage, that's setting them up for success. I really feel like it's setting them up for success. If only for the grind, but just more generally knowing that you can do that.
I mean, if I can see this performance from both of these teams that can quick to adapt, quick change the tempo and pace, I can see both these teams making a run for main stage.
Well, we do have Ambi in for the interview. Who else could we have at this stage? So welcome, Ambi. Let's get him in here. I don't know if anybody's told you yet, Ambi. They might have told you, but I'm going to tell you. You have tied the all-time kill record for online best of 3s. It's you and Citizen at 55 apiece.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad for a man who said he was playing mid. Not too bad. You know it, boy. Anyway, big congratulations, obviously. NAL champ Soniqs. We loved that match. Was insane. You guys played so well. I mean, you got to tell me, how was the team handling just those body blow, back-to-back, lead exchange rounds?
I mean, DZ's an amazing team, and we just had to fight for every single round. We know every single round we won, lost. We said it was going to be a fight, and I mean, yeah, you just make it as hard as possible for the other team to win the round, and so we did, and we fought through every round.
Ambi, again, congratulations, and congratulations on tying that kill record. You are playing phenomenal. I want to ask you, throughout your career so far, was this by far your hardest series that you've played in your pro career?
Yeah, that will go down in that's the best game he's ever played. Like, even if we lost that would have been an insane game. Like, I'll remember this game forever.
Absolutely.
I mean, you would have remembered a little bit better if you got that extra 1 and then broke the kill record. I mean, no, but one question I want to ask is just to give a little bit of credit towards DarkZero. I mean, when you you were having an amazing performance, but in that last series, in the whole series, Pamba was also having an equally as good performance. And when you are playing up against a player who's got a hot hand shooting, is there anything different that you and the team talk about to specifically isolate him? Is it a factor towards you guys? Are you guys not even worried about it? What does that look like?
We weren't worried about it at all. We don't really care. We didn't mention Pamba's name once through that whole series, put it that way. Like, if a player's doing good, we don't care. Like, it's a team game. Like, anybody can kill that player whenever. So, yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, wild. I mean, obviously, really long game. I'm sure you're exhausted. I'm sure all you guys are exhausted. You want to go maybe celebrate a little bit.
We do a best of 5.
Oh, you want a best of 5?
Yeah,
you want to get you guys back in there. That's what the people want. But no,
I'm good.
Yeah, I know you're good. He's yours. But I've just got one last question to ask you. You gonna win a major, Ambi?
That's the goal. That's the goal. That's the goal.
We'll be looking for you at Montreal, man. Congratulations. Proud of you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Love him, love the energy, love Soniqs and the culture that they built. I mean, we love DarkZero as well. Obviously, they played out of their minds, but I do really, every time we interview a Soniqs player, they are genuinely so happy and so proud of that team. I think it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, I think sometimes change is necessary. I mean, the old DarkZero roster obviously won a major. There was nothing really bad about the roster, but obviously now you've created something that both teams have been able to find success in. And obviously Soniqs going from stage 1, where they had arguably a very stacked roster and just couldn't make things stick, to now, I mean, it's night and day difference. And obviously, if you're the Soniqs organization, if you're Super, who's been a part of the roster for years at this point, it probably feels so rewarding to now feel this team fully come together, earn their spot. And as a North American fan, I really love the teams that we're sending towards the next major.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, I don't want to regurgitate everything you said, but I mean, to send these two teams specifically, and then also as a space station joining, I mean, I think we're really sending the absolute best possible teams. And the performance from both teams, from DarkZero and Soniqs, just throughout the series really shows how strong these two teams are. I mean, they really went tooth and nail with every single game. And I really can't wait to see what these guys look like they can do in the international teams and see how they fare up against Brazil with how dominant that they've looked, or even against teams like BDS. Because, I mean, this was a lights out performance for both these guys.
It's exciting stuff. I mean, it's exciting stuff. Here is our bracket. It's finally filled out. We have our 3 teams who are going to the major: Soniqs, DarkZero, Space Station Gaming. The rest, they're going to have to try and compete here through the last chance qualifiers for that one last spot. I mean, what do you guys make of the playoffs as a whole?
I mean, I think it was a very rewarding, very exciting stage and playoffs. I mean, everything was very competitive. All the teams that showed, I mean, NA definitely looked very good. And I think Cameraman said it best in the interview today. I mean, North America a year ago maybe had like 1 team, 2 teams that were maybe a threat. But now everybody can pop off on any given day. I mean, we saw teams that we didn't expect to do well, like Wildcard and M80. Do a lot better than we expected.
I mean, not even just playoffs, throughout the entire stage. I mean, we talked about how competitive NA has been throughout this stage, and it really could have been shaken up towards the end. Sure, Wildcard snuck in there, but LG was a team that was looking like they were going to be a contender for it. They fell out short, but I mean, through the playoffs, it was a little bit of up and downs for some team, and then to completely finish strong for the others that are now making it. I mean, overall, it was a really good series and a really good overall playoffs.
Well, unfortunately, the playoffs are over here, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed all the action that we were able to bring you, all the best that the North American League had to offer here in Stage 2. So excited to look ahead to the major. There is one more hurdle left here in NAL, and that is the aforementioned LCQs. We'll be back on October 14th, but this portion, the in-studio portion of NAL, is done. So I would like to thank everyone who has been talent here on the broadcast, all of our production crew, everyone behind the scenes who makes this happen. And most importantly, from all of us here in the Philadelphia studio, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful evening.